Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto destroys civilian council part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The Daimo Hokage had sacrificed his life to save the village and people he loved the day before. The entire village was in mourning for the loss of their leader and the many loved ones lost in the battle with a nine-tailed demon fox that attacked with little warning. The survivors of that tragic night gathered around the Hokage Tower to hear the message of their new leader, the Yandaime's predecessor, the Sandaime Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. The sage old man thought one last time over what he was about to do. He had spent the majority of the night in meetings over the future of the village that was calling on his leadership once more. Now he found himself seconds away from making a day-old baby either the most beloved figure in the quaint but powerful village of Konohagakure or the most hated. However, a key piece of information would be withheld from everyone at the request of the Yandaime. That request was that no one find out it was his child he used to seal the demon in to save the village. Hiruzen had stayed up all night debating both Minato's motives for such a request and the merits of it. In the end, he made the decision to honor the man's last request and trust in the village they both loved. He stepped out onto the balcony and looked out at the large gathering of civilians and shinobi. He calmly stood as the chatter stopped and all eyes focused on him. Most found it odd that he was holding what looked to be a newborn child in his arms. I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to be here today. As you know, the Yandaime in the battle against the Kyuubi no Kitsune sacrificed his life to protect us all. Many heads dropped at this, and there was a palpable sense of depression throughout those gathered. The council has seen fit to allow me the honor of taking over for my successor and leading this village once again. At this, a small cheer went up, and the sadness seemed to lift a little. As tragic and terrible as last night was, I know that the will of fire that burns within every citizen of Konoha will burn brightly once again. At this, more cheers went up and smiles could be seen, if only briefly. I have one last piece of business, and that is to introduce an important piece of the Yandaime's victory over the Kyuubi. At this, everyone looks to see the Sandaime holding up a baby that looks to have blue eyes and thin wisps of blonde hair with 3 faint whisker marks on each of its chubby cheeks. This child, born amidst the destruction and ruin that befell our village, was used by the Yandaime at the cost of his own life to seal away the demon's terrible power. It is by this young one's very will, its life, that Kyuubi will never return to harm this village or those within it ever again. The aged Hokage stood their arms out holding the baby above the railing of the balcony, waiting for a positive reaction. Unfortunately, after a few seconds of silence, someone in the crowd threw a rock, nearly hitting the child and the Hokage, who sensed the attack and moved to protect him. That was all it took, and suddenly the crowd turned violent. Hiruzen immediately went back into his office, where he got the message out to his loyal Umbu to stand down and hide until this blew over or they wore themselves out. As the Umbu and his loyal guards moved out, he erected a powerful barrier that even the Umbu who were trying to kill the child couldn't break. It was 3 long days before the Hokage deactivated the barrier after recalling those he sent into hiding. They took care of the few remaining villagers and shinobi who refused to leave. However, that would only serve as the beginning of Naruto's tormented youth. 7-year-old Naruto Uzumaki had just been released from the hospital after another attack on his person by a group of villagers and shinobi. It was a beautiful and bright Thursday morning, but he wasn't happy like the few people out that hour as he was walking home. He was angry and fed up with everything and everyone save two. It seemed like no one would protect him, and no matter what he said, his persecutors got off without as much as a word said against them. The shinobi side wouldn't vouch for him even if they came upon the attack just in time to shoo off the attackers before they put in the finishing blow, and of course none of the civilians would speak up, even those that pitied or liked the blonde child. It's always been like this even since before the orphanage kicked him out at age 4. Of course, he wasn't any safer there. He didn't receive any serious beatings or stabbings there, but they still tried to kill him. They just tried to starve him, or when they did feed him, poison him. In trying to be sneaky, they only managed to drag things out long enough that the Hokage eventually got around to saving him. To his fractured 7-year-old mind, the Hokage was the worst of them all. He could step in and do something about what was happening, but he only arrived on the scene just in time to prolong his suffering. The few times he had decided to protect himself, it was him who got in trouble and not the people who day after day tried to kill him or make him suffer through some other type of abuse. Naruto figured he had been beaten over 500 times in his life, stabbed over 200 times, poisoned over 100 times, nearly starved to death 40 times, mauled by the Inazaka dogs 27 times, raped by men and women 20 different times by too many people to count, electrocuted 10 times, nearly drowned 5 times, including a few where he was legally pronounced dead before he revived, lit on fire a few times, and there were more attempts on his life than he'd been beaten. He had even been used as a toilet by some particularly sick fucks. During all of that, he figured only 10 people had ever faced actual charges and been jailed. Of course, those were during times the mob got bored with him and turned their rage on someone else who most likely got too close to the mob while cheering on their actions. So you might ask why a boy who, despite a few pranks and all that's happened to him in his short life, most would see as bright, caring, and innocent even if he was a little dense, was suddenly feeling like destroying the whole village? It would have to do with a certain purple-haired kunoichi who had befriended him a few months before this last attack against him. They had bonded over stories of past abuse by the villagers and others. It started early on the morning of his 7th birthday. The villagers were getting ready for the festival that would be held later in the day, celebrating the Yandaime's victory of the Kyubi. The woman who he was starting to see in an older sister fashion, or perhaps even mother for his desperate wanting of a family, offered to, in her words, give him a birthday he'd never forget. Naruto woke up early despite hating to do so, as he knew the purple-haired woman was the same way, yet she was doing all this so he could have a good birthday for a change. It had truly been a great day as she took him shopping and bought him a few things. He would later look back as thinking that should have tipped him off, as they went to shops where just a few days ago he was beaten and chased off from for merely stepping on the sidewalk in front of their shop. They went to eat and played games after. She even bought him a set of kunai and shurikens, saying she believed in his dream of being Hokage and wanted to start him off right. He was having such a good time with his Nai-san that he lost all track of time. It wasn't until he heard the fireworks begin to go off that he realized it was nighttime. Immediately on guard and feeling sleepy from being out all day, Naruto decided to call it a night. The woman picked him up easily and put him on her back with his arms around her neck. He'd always wanted to do this, and now he was, but he felt so tired. She assured him he could rest and that he'd be safe in bed before he knew it. Unfortunately, when he awoke later, he found himself on the street in the middle of a dark alley with his Oni-chan nowhere in sight. However, upon clearing his eyes and looking, he saw he wasn't alone, as villagers and shinobi with murderous looks in their eyes began to move towards him from all directions, cutting off any chances of escape. Naruto cried out for the purple-haired woman, only to receive no response, only the cackles of laughter by the growing crowd as they started to mercilessly beat down upon him until he looked dead. Even with his unnatural healing rate, it would be almost a month before he was released from the hospital, cursing the weakness that put him in that situation. It all served to point out how alone he was. That there were few people, if any, he could trust. There were 2 people he could count on through it all, and that kept him from ending his life on his own terms, but he didn't want to be a burden on them. He knew despite the awesomeness that was Ichiraku Ramen, they were not making much money, because people knew they served him and were nice to him. He figured it would only get worse if nothing changed. The only hope he had was that soon he would be allowed to train at the academy. He had no wish to be a ninja and become a tool for those who've made his life hell. Still, he needed to be able to protect himself, and knew that was the place to learn. The only problem was he needed training now, but he knew no one would even let him look at a single scroll on even civilian-level defense tactics. Honestly, he wasn't much more hopeful about how he would be treated at the academy. "I can help you," a voice called out to him. Naruto looked around for the voice, but he was alone. "There's no need to search for me, kid." "Where are you?" Naruto asked the voice as he's still looking around. "I am talking to you inside of your head, so unless you want to be stared at, just think of what you want to ask me and talk inside of your mind. I will hear you just fine." "Okay then, who are you and why are you in my head?" Naruto asked as he was nearing his apartment. "I will explain all that when we are someplace where no one will feel an extreme amount of energy being released," the voice said. Naruto thought about the request for a minute before responding. "If you can read my thoughts, you probably already know, but I'll say it anyway, there is a problem with your request. I've recently noticed that despite my best efforts, there is always at least one person following me most of the time. Although they never seem to be around when I'm attacked for whatever reason. Also, while I live in a shithole that no one else would even attempt to live in, others would notice us there, and thanks to break-ins and attacks, the windows and locks in my apartment wouldn't keep out a 2-year-old. The only place left to consider is the Forest of Death, but I've heard people tell other people that there are things in there that are far stronger than the normal forest areas," Naruto says while waiting for a response. "Head to the forest, and don't worry about anything. I'll be showing you a technique along the way that will both hide what we're going to do and keep the creatures of that forest at bay." Naruto wasn't sure he should trust the voice, but when the voice started calling out hand seals, he decided to go along with it, of course, after an explanation on what hand seals were and how to do them. Naruto made it to the Forest of Death, as this area was called, half an hour later. He looked around and couldn't sense anyone following him, which really didn't mean much as most genins could still escape his notice, but with the relative isolation of the area he figured he was safe. "Okay kid, you're going to learn a sort of chakra control exercise called tree climbing. You need it to be able to scale these walls, and it will help increase your chakra reserves and make it easier for you to do the technique I need you to perform." That led to an explanation about chakra and why he needed more control before actually telling Naruto what to do. 6 hours later, Naruto was still having trouble, so that led to the fox having to reveal himself to the child before he wanted to and altering his plans. "Okay, stop." The voice called out, frustration evident. Naruto gladly stopped, feeling a little tired and sore from where he fell numerous times. I think it's time we met face to face. What do you mean meet? I thought you wanted me to get inside the forest first? Naruto asked, feeling a little better, but still winded from his attempts at climbing the wall. I'm going to answer your questions, Kit, but first I need you to sit down and concentrate on my voice. Naruto did as he was asked, and after a few minutes suddenly heard the sound of water dripping. He opened his eyes to find himself not outside the walled-off forest of death, but in a sewer with leaky pipes and water everywhere. This way, Kit. Hearing the voice, he walks towards where he thinks the voice is originating from. A few minutes later he finds himself in front of a dark, dank-looking cage that's easily 10 times his height. Suddenly 2 blood-red eyes shone through the darkness, coming closer and closer to him. As it came closer he could make out a muzzle and then 2 fox ears. Fox ears, a red muzzle, and eyes. I've seen that somewhere before. As the creature now stood only a few feet away from him, Naruto knew. You're the Kyuubi no Kitsune, Naruto states so the fox can hear him. And you're Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. At the mention of his name, Naruto was confused. His face scrunched up a bit as he thought of what it meant as the fox just watched patiently. How do you know my name? Also, why did you say Namikaze? It's just Naruto Uzumaki. At this the fox laughed and smiled eerily, baring his teeth. Stupid humans never cease to amaze me. Hey, I'm not stupid, Naruto shouted to the fox. The fox chose to ignore the comment made by his jailer and press on. Look, kid, originally I was going to have you going inside that forest and do this, but we can do it out here instead. Naruto looked at the fox and a thought suddenly came to his mind. Exactly why should I be trusting you? To say the fox was a bit shocked by the question was an understatement. He figured they had gotten past this point, and then there was the fact he figured his vessel was too dumb to question anything he said. Look, kid, just trust me and I'll make you one of the most powerful beings on your pathetic plane of existence. Naruto thought for a second, and part of him just wanted to do it, consequences be damned. However, everything else was screaming to make sure the fox couldn't turn this deal of theirs into the worst mistake he ever made. Look, don't think I am not appreciative of the offer, but I am only looking for training so I can defend well us. How powerful I get doesn't really matter to me as long as I can defend myself from all of my enemies, Naruto says, stunning the fox again, who then brought his head down and stared straight into Naruto's eyes. Then you're going to need to have an intense training schedule, Kit. You have enemies that would make the Hokages look weak, and I'm not just talking about the different demons and Jinchuriki you may face in the future. There is one particular group of humans actively hunting people like you known as Jinchuriki, because you have a demon sealed inside of you. Naruto thought about this and came to one conclusion. I knew my life was fucked, but I guess that just doesn't cover it anymore, Naruto said sadly, and the fox just grinned at his container's statement. True, but it doesn't have to be. I'm going to show you a clone technique that will help speed up parts of your training and allow you to get a little battle experience, but only after you allow me to change you a bit. What kind of changes exactly? Naruto asked, wanting to have some control for once in his life over what was happening to him. First, I plan to undo some of the damage these villagers have caused you by forcing you to starve and eat poorly. Then I am going to make it so you have 4 strong elemental affinities, including one that's rare for humans, and boost the 2 you already have. I will also enhance your senses and give you a dojutsu with similar abilities to the Byakugan and the Sharingan, which I gave those traitorous Uchihas. Last, I'm going to give you a Kekkai Genkai that will allow you to combine 2 elements to create a new stronger one. That sounds great, but what's the price for you doing this for me? It's a simple price. I want you to focus and change the sewer that's currently your mindscape into something more fitting of a demon of my stature. Also, I want to be able to sense everything you can. I want to be able to see what you see, smell what you smell, feel what you feel, and hear what you hear. Lastly, since I am locked away inside of you, I'll need you to avenge me and kill a couple of people who belong to that group I mentioned. They're the reasons I attacked your village, as I thought they were hiding here. Naruto thought about what the fox was asking and had one last question. Okay, that sounds reasonable. At this the fox grinned at his cunning. However, I want your word that outside of training you won't try to influence me in any way and that you won't attempt to take control of me. I also want those nightmares that I'm beginning to think are your memories to stop so I can sleep peacefully, Naruto said, stating his terms, which stopped the fox's grin. Fine, but the dreams I can't do anything about. That's part of the seal your father unwittingly created and used, the fox said, and now Naruto was confused again. What do you mean, my father, and what is this seal supposed to do? That is the answer to why I called you Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. The Yondaime Hokage, or fourth as you call him, was the one who sealed me into you, and he was your father. Why else would he use you to seal me when there were other flesh bags even newer than you that could have been used? The fox stopped to allow this to sink in. He was my father. The man who cursed me to this existence and left me all alone was my father? Naruto was stunned hearing this, but he was more than that, he was pissed. He always thought when he was finally told who his parents were he would find the love and attention he's always craved, but this was not what he expected. The only emotions he was feeling now were betrayal and anger. He was tempted to say to hell with everything and kill himself, but he knew the fox and the man he used to think of as a grandfather wouldn't allow that. He also knew he couldn't leave, as even with the fox's help and training he figured there were some things he wouldn't be able to learn without becoming a ninja. Thanks for telling me. Can I ask what do you want me to call you, since I highly doubt your name is QB? I actually don't know my name, human. I've held many in the millennia I've been alive. Naruto's sweat drops at that, and then decides to come up with a name for the great beast. How about I call you Kane when I'm talking to you? Naruto asked, and the QB thought for a moment. It's not the worst name you humans have called me, so I'll accept it. Okay, Kane-sensei, then what's this about the seal? QB, or Kane as Naruto named him, was a bit flummoxed by the use of sensei. Sure, he was the strongest demon on the human plane, but he couldn't remember the last time someone showed him such genuine respect. It made it all the more strange that it was coming from a kid whose existence up to this point was comparable to the lower denizens of hell, but that was going to change, and QB, or Kane, would make sure of that. The seal your father used will continuously drain me of my Yikai and convert it into chakra for you, which also means your chakra control will always be an issue for you. Once the seal accomplishes its primary goal, I will become little more than a spirit inside of you, and you will become a demon-human hybrid better known as a Hanyu. If I ever get the chance to meet the sperm donor that helped create me, I might kill him. Naruto's statement caused the QB to grin and hope he's around to see it. Okay, so how long do I have for this transformation to occur? Naruto asked, hoping that it wouldn't be any time soon, yet at the same time wishing it would happen now. It all depends on you, Kit. I imagine if you get strong enough to not need my Yikai, the process will slow down or possibly stop if you block off the seal. Anyway, Kid, it won't be any time soon, so I wouldn't worry about it. Naruto thought this over and decided Kane was right. Okay, so what do you need me to do, Kane-sensei? Unfortunately, there is going to be a lot of pain for you, and it's going to be a while before it stops. All you need to do is rip the bottom portion of the seal that's on my cage. Then lay down and take the pain while praying no one comes to check on you. Also, if you could take off that ridiculous jumpsuit and check it for a sensor I think the Hokage slipped on your clothes, that would help as well. After you find and destroy it, lay down and try to think of things you want to train in to distract yourself from the pain. Naruto was surprised at what the QB said. Would Sarutobi Gigi really go that far and still not be there to help me all those times I was attacked? Naruto ripped off a small part of the tag, leaving it mostly unharmed or changed. Naruto woke up and found himself back outside the forest of death. He had to know if the fox was right, so he took off his jumpsuit and looked inside of it, and seeing something he never remembered seeing before. It looked like one of those seal paper things like on the fox's cage, except silver in color. He tore it off and decided he needed to go through his entire apartment to see if there were any more and maybe fix the place up a little while he was at it. After he tore up the tag, he laid down on the ground, and not a second later the pain started. Trying to distract himself like the fox suggested, he started thinking of all the jutsus he wanted to learn, and the excitement began to override the pain. He knew for sure he wanted a big sword to strike his enemies down with, like he remembered seeing some guy do on a TV as he was passing by a shop window. That led to memories of how the shop owner beat him with a broom until he was a couple of blocks away for simply doing what a bunch of other kids were doing. Of course, he was the only one that got hit with the broom, as the other kids laughed before turning back to watch the show. He also thought about that seal he found and wondered if he could learn about how to make them, as something inside him found it very interesting. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office, a tired and confused white-haired old man had been watching all of this from his crystal ball he had hidden in his office when the ball deactivated as Naruto found his tag. There were a lot of questions floating through the man's head, and he could see this was going to be a long night. Back at the entrance to the Forest of Death, it was going on 10 minutes, and the pain was still coursing through Naruto. He had run out of things to think about, and even if he hadn't, the pain coursing through him was taking his complete focus. Naruto spent nearly the next 5 hours feeling nothing but pain. However, to anyone looking at him, it just looked like he was resting and having a bad dream or something weird. As soon as the pain left him, he passed out, oblivious to the physical changes his new sensei made. Naruto once again found himself inside his mindscape, but stopped to focus for a minute to change it into a forest like Kane-sensei asked. He concentrated for 5 minutes before opening his eyes and finding himself in a wooded area with trees 3 times the size of the ones he normally sees. He walks through the forest at a pace faster than he's accustomed to and finds himself in a clearing with a waterfall feeding a river that has extra large fish occasionally jumping around in it. He saw in the distance a castle he remembered creating based off one he saw in a book that was in a dumpster he was searching through for food once. That's when he found the QB running through his mental forest chasing after a larger than normal rabbit. Suddenly the rabbit jumps down a hole and is gone before the fox can catch it. Slightly angered that his prey got away, it took a few minutes before he noticed Naruto. Having fun, I see. The fox just smiled and then, to Naruto's surprise, changed into a more human form. He was tall, over 6 feet easy, with 2 red fox ears, red hair, red slit eyes, wearing a simple black kimono with black pants and a shirt underneath. It was nice to run around for a second, but now we have some business to attend to. Your training will start tomorrow, but I need to teach you a simple genjutsu to hide your new look. Kane-sensei taught Naruto how to hide his new form with a simple henge and how to layer it in case someone tries to dispel it. It took him a couple of hours inside his mindscape, but he eventually got it, and after waking up applied the henge and layered it 5 times just to be safe. He would have done more, but with no control over his chakra, layering the henge in such a way almost exhausted him. He raced to the nearest shop and tried to go in. When he was kicked out as the store owner yelled, "Get out, you little demon!" He figured he looked as close enough to how he normally did and headed home. Luckily, he managed to make it home without running into anyone else, so once he got home he immediately dispelled the technique and went to bed. Back in his office, the Hokage was looking out the window in the direction he knew the troubled young blonde lived. After witnessing what was happening, a lot of thoughts were going through his mind that demanded answering. He decided to let Naruto sleep for now. He couldn't prove it, but he knew whatever was happening involved the Kyuubi. He just hoped whatever it was that the boy would at least be honest with him about it. However, lately he had been feeling a bit of disconnection between himself and his self-appointed grandson. He couldn't help but feel a deep sense of dread and worry over what would happen next. It had been a month since the night Sarutobi felt he witnessed the Kyuubi influencing Naruto. He had an Umbu bring him to his office the next day, but the boy wouldn't say a word, so he asked the Umbu he had trailing the boy to report any weirdness. However, things seemed to be the same. He felt bad when through his globe he saw a group of citizens and shinobi beating on the boy savagely, only to feel a sense of relief when it was over. "I can't believe I felt relief over seeing a 7-year-old child beaten near to death, because nothing happened to those who did the beating. They got off without so much as a word said to them. Well, at least they didn't use any weapons that time." Then his mood soured even more. Of course, emboldened by my inaction, they returned the night after he was released from the hospital with weapons. He had to force himself to think about more pleasant things, like Ika, when the terrible memories of that night surfaced in his mind. He did nothing again, not that the civilian council would allow him to, but made sure Naruto got home safely when he was released. The old man was tired and knew he was doing a poor job protecting one of his village's greatest heroes. The problem was, despite his affection for the boy, and his promise to his father, he felt the villagers were somewhat justified to their anger. Therefore, despite their reprehensible actions, he couldn't hold them responsible. The only question was, how much could one little boy take? That was why he sent one of the few ninjas he knew to have no ill feelings toward Naruto to bring him to his private office. There was a knock at the door, and he called out for them to come in. Soon he was staring at Naruto, who he knew was in a henge. He was so distracted that he forgot to dismiss the Umbu. "Naruto, could you please drop that henge you're using?" Naruto thought of complying at first, but thought better of it after remembering everything. "Henge? This is how I always look, Hokage-sama." Sarutobi was surprised, and so was the Umbu. "Look, Naruto, you did a good job with it, especially when you haven't even been to the academy yet. However, good job or not, I am the Hokage for a reason, so please drop the henge." "Yeah, kid. I didn't notice until now, but I can definitely tell you're using a henge." Naruto just looked at them and undid one layer. "Okay, that henge is down, and see, nothing's changed, so can we move on to why I'm here?" This is not how Naruto acts. "Oh, Kami, don't tell me he figured something out." "Naruto, please remove all of the henges," the Hokage asked. The Umbu was both annoyed by this kid and impressed. "I didn't learn how to layer a genjutsu until I was a chunin. I might request to take a few shifts guarding the brat and see what he is really up to. I apologize again, Hokage Dano, but I cannot do what you ask." Now this was getting frustrating. "Naruto, I order you to remove the henges this instant." "I apologize again, Hokage-san, but I can simply not follow the request. I am a civilian child and not a ninja. I understand if it makes you uncomfortable, but I would appreciate it if we could move on to why you asked for me." What is up with all the different ways he's saying Hokage? He's being respectful, but also disrespectful at the same time. The Naruto I know isn't this smart, and he would have called me Gigi at least once. What is with this kid, and how is he getting away with this? Technically he's right, but most civilians wouldn't be stupid enough to challenge the Hokage, and how is he keeping up those henges for so long at his age? Okay, let's move on. I need to know what happened last month. I know I asked you before, but you didn't answer, and so I let it go. I had hoped you would come and talk to me on your own, but since you haven't, I'm afraid I'm going to need you to answer me now. I thought he had forgotten about that. I still remember all those tags I found on my clothes and in my apartment, but there's something else also. He has a way of watching me, but it must be hidden or something only he can do. What are you referring to, Hokage-Q? There were a lot of nights last month where something happened to me. The Hokage and the Umbu both frowned at the response. This isn't going to be as easy as I thought. Naruto, please just be honest with me. You were spotted near the Forest of Death. Did something happen that you would consider weird or out of the ordinary? For a minute nothing was said and everyone was silent as Naruto took up what would look to be a thinking pose. Nope, can't say that there was. If that's all Hokage Denka, then I'd like to be excused. It's almost time for lunch. At Naruto's response, Sarutobi smiled and thought for sure he could get through to the blonde with his favorite food as a lure. You're right, Naruto-kun. How about I treat you to some ramen? Asked the Hokage. No thanks, Hokage Haika, I'm going to eat at home instead. Thanks for the offer. To say Sarutobi was stunned was an understatement. There was no way he ever believed the blonde would turn down free ramen. Oh Kami, now I know for sure something's wrong. Oh, maybe I can join you, Naruto-kun, and we can talk some more? Sorry, but as I'm sure you know, my apartment isn't suitable for company. I must be leaving, however. So may I be excused? Actually, one last thing before you leave, Naruto-kun. Naruto nodded. The council has decided you will be allowed to attend the academy when it starts next year. We will of course pay the expense, but you will be responsible for your supplies. They've also decided that instead of putting you with the first years, you will be allowed to join with the kids of your age group so you don't feel too out of place. Thank you was all Naruto said as he walked out of the office without so much as a goodbye. I fear he's already heading towards the dark side of life and I have no idea how to get him back on the right path. Robin, what's your opinion of the child that just left? She was stunned that he would ask her opinion, but after taking a minute she answered. Hokage-sama, I can only say he's much more than what I've heard and unfortunately life has not been kind to him. I sense a dark energy that is not connected to it slowly consuming him. He will be lost if something isn't done soon. I was thinking the same thing. You wouldn't happen to have any solutions to fix the problem, would you? Outside of kindness and love there is no quick fix unless you can change history. The Hokage nodded and dismissed her after thanking her for her counsel. I'll wait until he finishes the academy before making any decisions. Maybe a few friends his own age would help, but I highly doubt he'll be accepted easily. I already delayed his entry due to pressure from the clan and civilian council, but that's just making things worse. I just hope he can survive, graduate, and stay loyal, not that we've given him many reasons to be. He turned to survey his desk. At least there is less paperwork since he's pretty much stayed out of sight. Time for a smoke, a drink, and a certain little orange book. The Hokage thought, smiling at his newly instituted private time. Naruto had just left the tower and could feel the old man's eyes on him. Well, that was interesting, but I don't know how much longer I'll be able to stay under his radar if things keep going the way they are. As it is, I had to agree to go through with that stupid agreement I made to go to the academy and become the best Hokage ever. Naruto thought, trying hard to stifle a laugh at his previous self, and how stupid he'd had to act just to survive this damn village. I have to keep reminding myself I'm still way too weak. If what Kane told me is accurate, I need to be stronger than the old man was in his prime, and Kane won't teach me how to use my elemental affinities or Keki Genkai until next year. Naruto sighed when thinking about everything he had yet to do and would need to do. I guess right now I should just keep focusing on my current training. Naruto thought about the increasingly difficult workout Kane was putting him through with the use of seals and weights. Kane decided that the boy needed physical training more than anything right now and a better diet, as he was slow and short, two things that didn't bode well for his jailer. Although he figured he fixed one of those issues somewhat, and only time and a good diet mixed with punishing exercises would take care of the rest. So with that in mind, he had Naruto go to every store hinged as his normal self and tried to buy what he needed. It took a week, but soon Naruto had a map that marked every store that would serve him and another mark for those that would treat him fairly, which was a handful at best. Only one place had a third mark for treating him well or like a hero, and that was Ichiraku's, although he made a point to not be seen there except under the guise of a henge to not mess up their business. So to get everything he needed, it started with the stores that would treat him fairly and then the ones that would serve him. He did get kicked out of a few when he tried to force them to serve him fairly with honest prices, but most begrudgingly sold him items at their correct price. He even got a few items at sale price. He was happy he had found a ninja supply shop that would treat him fairly even if he was forced to come back after hours to shop so no one would see him and hurt the owner's business. The owner turned out to be a nice guy who Naruto found out had a daughter who was only a year older than him and already in the academy. Though he never met her and was thinking it was on purpose more and more. However, food was still an issue, as it seemed like no one outside of Ichiraku's ramen wanted to even have him near their establishment, and the grocery stores tried to force him to buy stale or rotted food. He got around this by simply changing his henges to resemble a couple of boys from some of the clans he saw walking around the village. He thought about being angry at how much better he was treated, but it served no purpose for him. He had resigned himself to the fact that as long as he was in Konoha, no matter what he did, he'd never be treated just like everyone else, much less like the clan kids who were treated better than average, some bordering on royal treatment. No, it wouldn't change things to be all angsty about, besides if they knew what he could really do. He'd never be treated like the Uchihas or Hyugas, But he had little doubt they'd be lining up for blocks to kiss his butt and apologize while trying to force him into something so they could use him. He figured as things were, life was getting better for the young Jinchuriki, but they were still far from ideal. Hey Brad, if you got the energy to think about all this crap, then you need to do your afternoon exercises. Naruto sighed, but did as he was ordered. 3 hours later, after running around Konoha 5 times, doing 50 push-ups, 50 pull-ups, 50 sit-ups, 50 jumping jacks, 50 squats and lunges, and stretches, by the end of his new routine, Naruto laid out on the grass of a local park, looking on as other children played and laughed happily without a care in the world. Naruto couldn't help but feel a little envy creep up inside of him. It didn't last long as he decided to head home and read a book or two before going to bed. I have to remember to sneak them back into the library and get some more soon. His thoughts drifted off to what would happen next year, and if he might find one more person in a village filled with idiots and hypocrites that could see him for who he was and not what they heard or were told. Naruto could only sigh at the scene before him. It was finally time for him to join the academy, and he admittedly found himself a little nervous. He watched as parents escorted their kids to the school, dropped them off, and stood around with other parents talking about how great their kids were. Well, most of them anyway. He took notice of one little girl with white eyes who was just standing there with a blank expression on her face as an older boy who didn't look too kindly towards her left her outside the school without so much as a wave. He could see a similar pain in her eyes, but she didn't seem to possess the anger or emptiness that most saw within his own. The other parents and children all seemed to be avoiding her, taking care not to bump into her, only sparing a few polite pleasantries before scurrying off. She suddenly turned and looked at him like she was studying him, but he saw no hate or anger in the look, so he faked a smile and waved at her. She quickly turned, hiding the blush that was spreading over her as she walked into the academy. Naruto frowned at the weird actions of the girl, but soon his focus was turned to the angry group of people coming towards him. Naruto decided that today wouldn't be like the other days. He had played the good little victim during the last year, all the while training and getting stronger, faster, and maybe more importantly smarter under his sensei's direction. Now that he was entering the academy, both thought it was time to show Konoha that they had lost their punching bag and scapegoat. He just stood there with his eyes closed as they circled him and started their taunting and jeering. "What are you doing here, demon?" There was no response. "Answer him, you little demon shit." The shrill pink-haired woman was ignored as well. After a few minutes of this went by with the boys saying nothing and a gathering crowd cheering them on, one of them went to strike the blonde boy. Naruto's eyes suddenly opened and he grabbed the fist of a pink-haired woman that was inches away from his face. "Why are you trying to hit me?" Naruto asked in a voice that reminded all involved and those watching that he was still just a child. "'Cause you're a monster!" the pink-haired woman shrieked as she tried to wrench her fist back from the boy's grasp. The only response she received was a laugh as he shoved her fist away and walked by her and through the crowd that parted for the demented blonde. "What the hell was that? Do you think he's finally breaking? Have we gone too far? I know my kid would have snapped a long time ago." Those were just a fraction of the many questions and thoughts that ran through the crowd until the sounding of the school bell broke their thoughts, and they went about their day. They all left with thoughts of telling their kids to avoid Uzumaki Naruto at all costs when they saw them later. In his office, watching everything from his office through his crystal ball, Saratobi was wondering the same thing. Naruto continued walking and had almost reached the front doors of the school when a group of teachers quickly came out and surrounded him. They mirrored the earlier mob in their taunts, jeers, and questions. Naruto merely flashed the registration papers signed by the Hokage himself, and walked by them, easily pushing past the Chunin blocking the door. As he walked through the halls, he could see the teachers all looking at him evilly, and he just smiled at each and everyone, giving a little wave. All had two thoughts: is he really so dumb that doesn't notice I don't like him, or is that little demon shit mocking me? I'll show him. Naruto just kept walking until he reached the door of the class the Hokage assigned him to. Opening the door, he was greeted to the sight of his future classmates trying to stare a hole through him. Well, maybe not all. The girl from earlier was looking at him, but he still couldn't sense anything bad from her, so he slowly walked up to her, ignoring the stares and glares the others were giving him. She was sitting in the fourth row near the middle with two empty chairs beside her, so he asked, "Mind if I sit here?" She just shrugged her shoulders and looked away from him. Naruto calmly rounded the desk, taking the aisle seat, and slid the chair out, but just as he was about to sit down, someone decided to put their hands on him. Naruto looked at the window as he watched the reflection of the person behind him. "I would appreciate it if you would remove your hands," Naruto says calmly, not wanting to fight on his first day as he sat down. "And I would like for you to get up and find another seat," said a scruffy-looking boy with dark eyes and red marks on his face with what looked to be a white puppy on his head barking. Now it was true that Naruto hadn't started to learn anything outside of chakra control and a few seals that, according to Kane-sensei, would help make him faster, stronger, and quicker if he kept up with his exercises and other physical training. However, that did not mean he hadn't experimented with a few of his gifts, and the scruffy-haired kid was about to feel the result of one of those experiments. I will ask one last time, please remove your hand. There is another seat next to the lady if you wish to sit next to her, otherwise leave. The other kids had watched as all this happened, and except for a certain white-eyed girl thought the new kid or demon brat, as they heard their parents refer to the blonde, was about to get his butt kicked. Make me demon! At the scruffy kid's shout, all Naruto did was give a wide grin, still sitting in his seat. The smile lacked the eye-piercing gleam that Mateo guy was known to produce, but it still gave off an innocence that would belie what was about to happen. Kiba was putting as much pressure as he could on the demon's shoulders, trying to make him cry. He was so focused on his task that he didn't notice Naruto place his hands over his until he started to feel really warm. Still, he pressed on, figuring he could cool down when the demon kid ran back to his crappy rat hole apartment. Kiba knew where he lived, as he joined some other kids from time to time and threw rocks at the building the blonde kid lived. He didn't know that what he was doing was wrong. He was just trying to fit in and make some friend, and picking on the blonde kid seemed to be the easiest way to do both. Kiba was sure he was going to be praised and become popular for what he was doing. Also, he wanted to impress the Hyuga heiress, and surely she didn't want the demon kid to sit next to her. No, she's just the kind to tell him to get lost. Kiba was sure of that, so he pressed on despite feeling a little hot now and smelling something like meat on the grill. Naruto just continued to smile as Kiba remained oblivious to what he was doing, to the disbelief of everyone in the classroom. How can he be so dumb not to notice his hands are practically on fire, was the common thought. Naruto had spent the entire year training his speed, strength, and chakra control. However, he also bought quite a few books on many different subjects, including elemental manipulation. He hadn't even done one exercise to begin to master his elements, but thanks to a strong affinity for fire and his Kekkei Genkai, he found he could heat the area around him to ungodly temperatures, which is what he was doing, focusing on the area around Kiba's hands so as not to bother the pale-eyed girl who sat next to him. It didn't take but a second more as Naruto focused more on Kiba. What the hell, why is it so hot in here, and why do my hands OUCH? Ouch. Ouch. Hot, hot, hot. Kiba screamed as he ran for the nearest water source, knocking down their Chunin teacher in his mad scramble for the bathroom. The puppy had also fallen during the collision, and after a few shakes ran barking down the halls after his master, which alerted the other classes who were wondering what was going on. The teacher Kiba ran over, got up, and dusted himself off before standing in front of the class. Can anyone tell me what just happened? Asked the white-haired Chunin. He didn't receive an answer, but by the looks everyone except the Hyuga heiress was throwing towards a blonde boy. He didn't need one. Uzumaki, what did you do? The man shouted, only to get a shrug from Naruto, though he wondered how he knew his name when he hadn't even looked over the attendance sheet. Fine, but until you remember, you will stand outside the classroom, and you better be there when I come out to check on you, the Chunin says loudly as his classmates snicker and laugh at him. Naruto didn't reply or look at anyone as he walked out of the room, so he never saw the pale-eyed girl watch sadly as he walked away. He stood out in the hallway for hours, and the only thing that happened was Kiba coming back with his hands wrapped up and smelling like he rolled around in a toilet that the previous user hadn't bothered to flush. Naruto just smirked as Kiba and his little puppy, although Naruto couldn't be sure on that one, glared at him with looks of revenge on their faces. They quickly ran into the classroom though when they noticed it was starting to get hot and Naruto was giving off some reddish-orange aura. Naruto looked inside the room to find the teacher and saw him with a similar smirk to the one he just gave Kiba. The man calmly walked over and closed the door in his face, getting more giggles and laughs from his classmates. Naruto stood outside for another 30 minutes before he'd had enough. He figured something like this would happen the moment any trouble happened in class. It's not like he'd never been blamed or punished for stuff he didn't do before. So instead of wasting more time he could be using to train, he created a single Kage Bunshin and then hinged himself to look like a dark-haired, dark-eyed, black-clad, whisker-less version of himself, and walking up to the roof before he jumped to the next one and ran off to the forest of death so he could train in private for the rest of the day. It was now Saturday and Naruto was thinking back on his previous week of school. He didn't know if he should really say that as he spent more time in the forest of death, as he was told his favorite training area was called, than actually in school. He mentally thanked his still-asleep sensei for teaching him Kage Bunshin, because otherwise he would have been stuck spending most of his days this week standing in the hallway. He didn't even know what he did to be thrown out these past 2 days, as after Wednesday he had opted to avoid being near the Hyuga heiress as it was bringing too much unwanted attention on him. It wasn't like she ever spoke to him, so he really felt no loss there, and he liked to be alone most of the time. It was better than being treated like a monster anyway. Letting out a deep sigh, Naruto did his morning routine, which started with a nice breakfast of sausage patties, fried egg omelets, sliced apples, toast, and orange juice, then took a shower and finished by brushing his hair and teeth before gathering up what he would need for school or training and sealing it up. As he checked to see he had everything, he made a Kage Bunshin to clean up and shut everything off and then headed to school the civilian way. He made it to school with 10 minutes to spare, receiving the normal glares and hate-filled utterances, But ever since that first day he noticed most people stayed as far away as possible from the blonde. The Hokage had even sent for him on Wednesday to get him to promise not to do a repeat performance, as he spent most of his afternoon Monday and the entire day Tuesday fielding complaints, transfer requests, death threats towards Naruto, etc. Then some Inuzuka barged in demanding he apologize to Kiba, who had told her some ridiculous story about how the demon kid attacked him when he was trying to help the Hyuga heiress and had his back turned to him. That did get a good laugh out of him, even as Saratobi frowned at him. Of course she stormed out without an apology and a bit red in the face when the Hokage relayed what really happened. She didn't care about what Kiba did to Naruto, but for lying to her and making her look silly in front of the Hokage, well, Kiba wasn't going to like what happened to him when he got home. However, their intrusion did give the Hokage the opportunity to question Naruto about what he did to Kiba. Naruto cursed silently to himself about how much tap dancing he had to do to get around answering the man who was very insistent. Damn nosy old man and his stupid snitches. Naruto walked past the parents, teachers, and other students who were giving him a lot of space without saying a word or even acknowledging any of them. Many parents had tried to get either him kicked out of the school or their kids transferred from the class he was in, but the other classes were full. The only kid who was transferred out was Sasuke, who was switched with a civilian boy whose parents complained at first, but bit their tongue as the council said it was for the good of the last remaining loyal Uchiha. After hearing about the incident with Kiba, they tried to force the Hokage to kill or exile Naruto, but even with a majority vote in favor of both, the Hokage refused, and so they settled for secretly upping Sasuke's secret training and asking for an upgrade to the watch on Naruto, as he was clearly getting training from somewhere. The Hokage granted the request, as he himself had trouble watching Naruto through his own devices and wanted some answers. Unfortunately for Naruto, when the reason for Sasuke's transfer got out, his fangirls didn't take it so well. Naruto suddenly became a target for every mean-spirited joke and prank they could come up with, but all had failed and in some cases backfired, which only made them angrier and more determined. Kiba also took any opportunity to make a joke at Naruto's expense or insult him. Walking through the halls to his class, Naruto thought about the real reason Sasuke was transferred. Tuesday, the teacher Mizuki decided to take the class outside and see what their level was in practical ninja skills. He bombed genjutsu, as he'd only had enough skill to break out of genin-level illusions and didn't have any knowledge of how to make one. He also bombed ninjutsu, as he didn't know any. Throwing weapons he barely passed, as he hadn't practiced much yet with them. Taijutsu, though, is where he rose some eyebrows. It wasn't because of his skill, as he hadn't actually found a style he liked yet, but his speed and strength were at such a level thanks to his training that the civilian kid he was pitted against was badly hurt with just a few punches, as he couldn't guard against Naruto's speed. The council didn't think he could beat Sasuke, but why risk it? To have Sasuke lose to the demon brat would ruin all their plans, so for now they thought it best to keep them separate until they had no choice, which would give them 2 more years before the class size would dwindle to the point that it would be foolish to have more than one class. Naruto walked into class and took his customary seat at the very back next to a window. He chuckled at the fact that since the fight he'd been given an even wider berth than before, as no one would sit in his section of seats, so he could lay out using the 3 chairs as an uncomfortable bench of sorts. Oddly enough, Mizuki left him alone and didn't kick him out until he raised up and tried to participate in the class discussion they were having. At this point, all the remaining students entered, with Mizuki quickly following. After roll call, Mizuki got into a long lecture on the founding of Konoha, at which point Naruto tuned him out. It was 10 minutes into the lecture when Kiba, who was sitting a few rows in front of Naruto, decided to blow spitballs at Mizuki. Naruto was impressed by the range, but less than impressed when he was blamed for it, and angered when, just like every day this week, he'd been kicked out of class. Leaving his books, Naruto got up and walked out of the class with the snickers and comments following him. Standing outside, Naruto didn't even wait 5 minutes before creating a Kage Bunshin and once again going up to the roof henge to look like someone else and racing off to train. Part of him was glad Mizuki kept kicking him out and giving him the opportunity to leave and train instead of wasting time in a place that would only seek ways to humiliate him and hold him back. Still, he reckoned the next 4 years were going to be the longest of his life. Well, at least Kane-sensei promised he would start his elemental training tomorrow, so he had something to look forward to. The morning sun shone down on our blonde-haired hero. It was the morning of the exams, and he was debating with Kane the merits of showing up or not. You have to go, otherwise the old man will just insist that you stay another year in that place. All he got was a deep sigh. I know that, sensei, but I don't see why I can't just send a powered-up Kage Bunshin instead. You do remember what that so-called teacher of yours said last week, right? This got another sigh. I know, somehow after not seeming to see it for the whole year, the asshole caught on to our little act, though I'm not sure how. Naruto frowned at being caught by a mere chunin teacher. I doubt it was him who caught on to it. Yeah, you are probably right, which means I have no choice. Naruto sighed and got ready. After showering, eating a clone-prepared breakfast, and brushing his teeth, Naruto left a little early and started his walk towards the academy. It wasn't a long walk, but it always felt like it with the glares that accompanied his every movement. Still, he moved with an air of confidence and awareness that kept them at bay. After the first day of the academy, the word had gotten around the Uzumaki boy was cracking and was starting to fight back. Despite what one would believe, the village of Konohagakure was not filled with morons, hypocrites, or evil-minded bigots. No, they didn't need to be told who Naruto's parents were or see several hundred blood tests to recognize who he was. It seemed like every day he was becoming more and more the mirror image of his father, and his old personality reminded them even more of his mother. Lady Kushina, the last survivor of Whirlpool, had become a beloved figure in Konoha, and her relationship with Minato was much less a secret than they believed. Still, in their grief they had become blinded by the lies of a few. The few became the sum and the sum became the majority, but the anger had long since gone away, replaced by a weary tension the last 4 years. The carefree, smiling, helpful child was replaced by a cold, uncaring, untrusting boy. Then there was the council. It wasn't only the Hokage who was slowly being reduced to little more than a paper tiger, a figurehead by their greed. No, it was also the civilians. By the time they had all come to their senses, they were too much under their thumb to do anything other than follow their orders and continue to treat Naruto like they had been treating him. So with many regrets and great sadness, they turned their hate, now fueled by the council, towards the boy they all secretly admired and wanted to help. Naruto just looked at the school, recalling the memories from his clones. After that first week, Naruto had just kept sending fully charged shadow clones every day while he worked on his physical skills and abilities: chakra control, elemental manipulation, fuinjutsu, genjutsu, and ninjutsu. However, Naruto's favorite skill to practice were his clone jutsus. They were just so useful, and with or through them he could literally be his very own army. His chakra control by the end of his second year in the academy was enough to finally be able to do the basic clone jutsu they taught in the academy, and as weak as it was, it had its uses, he would admit. One of the things he hated most about the academy was that Mizuki seemed to follow him, or rather his clones, throughout his years in the academy. First as a teacher, and then as Naruto rose past his responsibilities, he managed to weasel his way in as an assistant. It was like the guy was possessed by the need to make his school days hell. It only got worse when Sasuke returned. If his fangirls were unbearable before, he was sure there was a special place in hell for all of them. Especially the ringleaders Sakura, Ino, and Ami with her 2 shadows. He seriously questioned what it meant to be a ninja if these girls were being allowed to pass. As he walked into the school and through the halls with the all-present glare following him, he couldn't help but think of what might have become of him if he didn't know the Kage Bunshin Jutsu and wasted 8 hours a day 6 days a week being intentionally misinformed and misled. He seriously doubted he would be prepared for what Kane told him was coming in the future. He only knew for sure of one threat, but he was enough of one. To fight Uchiha Itachi and live was something not many people could say, but he wanted to be one of those that could. He could still remember that night when Itachi delivered said threat personally. Naruto had been awakened by a loud banging noise and wasn't in the mood for company due to a little run-in with another of those damn mobs earlier. "Alright, already, I'm coming, damn it," Naruto shouted at the jerk that was still banging on his door. Good thing I took some time to actually fix this place up a little. That old door would have long been smashed through, which reminds me, why am I answering the door in the middle of the night with my history? Before Naruto could really think about it though, the pounding stopped and a second later the door opened. "Hello, Naruto-kun," the voice said, and before Naruto could respond he found himself in darkness. "Welcome to my world, Naruto-kun." Naruto blinked, finding himself in an open grassy area with trees on the edges as a strong gust of wind made him cover his face for a second. "You can lower your arms now, Naruto-kun." Naruto did, and a frown overcame his face. "To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit, Itachi-san?" "Interesting. I didn't know you knew my name, Naruto-kun. Well, your clan among others have caused me a lot of pain in the past. I make it my business to know about those who would be able to do so for future reference. It seems I was right about you, Naruto-kun. My clan was of the opinion that my brother or me would end up being the strongest from our village, but I always disagreed with that assumption. Do you know who I always told my father would one day be that individual?" Naruto just shrugged, looking around for a means of escape. All he got for a response was a smile. Itachi noticed that Naruto seemed to continue looking for a way out. "I apologize for not explaining this sooner, Naruto-kun, but this world we are in is Tsukuyami, an ability of my Mangekyo Sharingan, and there is no escape." "Oh, and how long am I here for?" "A few seconds in the real world can be days or weeks in here, but I will only keep you long enough to deliver my message. I have been set up by people who seek yours, or more to the point, your prisoner's power. So why are you telling me? I have been watching you for a long time and I'm impressed. You have survived where many would have fallen. Okay, so what am I supposed to do? I would tell you to train hard, but you do. Just make sure by the time you graduate you have at least low jounin level skill in most if not every aspect of ninja skill, or you won't make it past your first year. Besides the obvious, why are you telling me this, and what do you want?" Itachi just looked at Naruto, and then gave a rare smile. The answer is one and the same, Naruto-kun. I desire strength, and sometime after your graduation I'll find you and we'll fight. I hope you'll be ready, Naruto-kun. It was dark again, and before Naruto could do anything he felt lips touch his and found himself in a strong embrace as suddenly a tongue slid in past his lips. He struggled against it, but something about it felt right. Suddenly though he found himself back at his front door, and nothing there except for a key that looked like his. There was a note taped to his chest, so he looked down and read it. It was a warning about Sasuke and the believed method of attaining the Mangekyo Sharingan. I hate him anyway, so no problem with that, but why would he care to warn me, and what was with that kiss? Naruto thought as he picked up what was a copy of his key that he hadn't made. I really need to do something about that landlord of mine as well. Naruto went back inside to try and get some sleep after burning the note, and placing the key in the drawer filled with copies of his key. Naruto awoke from his thoughts to find himself outside of the classroom. Luckily he was still early, so walking in and only seeing a few people he headed straight for the seat his clones usually took all the way in the back near the windows. Taking his seat, his thoughts once again turned to that night. I still have no clue as to what that was about, or if it was really real. I mean, what was that pressure against my chest when he kissed me? Oh, is my little Naruto thinking about his little boyfriend again? Shut it, Kane. I am not gay. TSK Naruto. You shouldn't deny your true feelings. I'm a demon after all, and if you are gay that's fine with me. Demons of all kinds, colors, and sexes get together where I am from, so there's nothing to be ashamed of. Thanks for the understanding, but it's not needed now. Shut up or I'll turn my mindscape into fuzzy land. Naruto was soon pulled out of his conversation by the shouting of Ino and Sakura as they were fighting over sitting next to Sasuke, who was doing his best to ignore them. Unfortunately, Sasuke was sitting next to him, as he had started doing halfway through the third year when he rejoined Naruto's class. Naruto hated it, but after his clones started to dodge him so it didn't have to put up with the two crazed girls, the Uchiha would seemingly wait him out before jumping to the seat next to him. It wouldn't have been an issue, but he always waited until most of the other seats were taken. So Sasuke ignored him, and his clones ignored Sasuke now, so was he. I wonder why they never realized there are two chairs beside him, and they could both sit beside him. Naruto just shrugged and chalked it up to them being fangirls. Soon Iruka came in and used his big head jutsu to get everyone to shut up. Also, surprisingly, Ino managed to steal the seat from out under Sakura and was smugly sticking her tongue out at a defeated-looking Sakura as she sat next to Sasuke. Naruto tuned out the drama as he looked to see the pale-eyed girl he came to know as Hinata looking at him. He just smiled and waved as she quickly turned around. Reviewing the memories of his clones showed that she did that constantly, and for whatever reason seemed to avoid being near him. He didn't really know what to think about the girl other than he thought she was really cute and really weird. Naruto stopped this line of thinking as both teachers stood up and the man he now knew as Iruka started talking. Alright everybody, today is this last day for those who have not taken or passed the Genin exam. He stops and looks at Naruto with a glare. For those of you who have passed, you are welcome to take it again to try and improve your marks, otherwise you can go home. To Naruto's surprise, only Hinata, a boy called Shino, and Sasuke got up and left. I wonder how come no one else passed before. I know I failed mainly cause I was trying to, and those two pricks were pulling tricks to make me fail. I bet they'd be surprised if I told them I was trying to fail. Naruto just grinned, suppressing a laugh as he once again caught the glares of the two teachers. Okay everybody, Mizuki will pass out the tests, and remember to use standard number 2 pencils, and if you need to you may pull out a piece of paper now to work with, and when you're done attach it with a paper clip to your test. Naruto of course pulled out a couple of pieces from a pocket that had a seal hidden in it, and a pencil. I wonder why they always say use a number 2 pencil. Is there a number 3 pencil somewhere? Mizuki finally reached Naruto's row, and with Sasuke gone it was just him and Ino. But Mizuki just left his test on the seat furthest from him and walked away with a smile, and Ino didn't look like she was willing to pass it to him. Naruto reached over and grabbed his test and immediately noticed the genjutsu over it. He looked down and sure enough both teachers had a stupid smirk on their faces. Naruto just smiled and looked down at his test. I could piss them off and simply dispel the genjutsu, but I think I'll do one better. Now it was Naruto's turn to give the teachers a smirk, and they instantly looked confused. Naruto took a sheet of paper and wrote down the questions before dispelling the genjutsu and working on the real test before turning to his teacher's test. Naruto just finished as Mizuki called for everyone to stop and bring their tests up before heading out to the training fields. Naruto was the last one to hand in his paper and with a smirk left to join his classmates. Iruka and Mizuki quickly checked the other papers before looking at Naruto's and then his worksheet. Mizuki, how the hell did he answer these? I remember these as being on the Chunin exam test when we took it. Iruka said, looking over the paper again. I don't know, but he must have cheated somehow. How? We were watching the little demon like hawks. I don't know, but he must have. There's no way he's this smart. I guess, but there's nothing we can do. I have to pass him for this part of the test, and worse is he'll get the top score, a perfect 100. Both men sighed before heading out to give the rest of the test, hoping the demon fails the next one. They soon caught up to the class and found them lounging around amicably talking amongst themselves, with Naruto far off to the side looking like he was in a trance. Okay everybody, we graded the tests and here are the top 5. 5. Naresh Shikamaru 4. Tamachi Keiru 3. Nobuzuru Haruto 2. Harino Sakura 1. Uzumaki Naruto. Everyone was shocked at the results except for Naruto, who just smiled and waved at everyone as they stared at him. A minute later the fog was broken and they all began discussing how the demon brat cheated. Naruto just continued to smile, loving the turmoil he caused in the insignificant little minds. A few minutes later they were assembled in front of a bunch of targets that were placed at varying distances. Being an Uzumaki at least had one advantage. Naruto got to go last as all the other kids went before him, and without the 3 who already scored high enough to pass the 2 previous times, the rest were average at best. However, to pass all they needed was to hit 5 out of 10 on both shuriken and kunai throwing or hit the target 10 times. It surprised Naruto when Ino and Sakura managed to hit 7 using both, while the rest settled for hitting 10 combined, as most seemed to do better with kunai than the shuriken for some reason. When it was his turn, Naruto stepped up to the line and, taking his time, hit all 10 targets in the bullseye with the shuriken, secretly using a little wind chakra to correct the path of any that seemed off target. Hearing the mummers, Naruto smiled as he took his time and all 10 kunai wound up in the bullseye beside the shuriken. Iruka and Mizuki were beside themselves as they expected him to fail miserably and kick him out with the 3 strikes rule, never to see him again unless they were in the mood for a little revenge or torture. However, it seemed like nothing they did was working even when they tried to knock his kunai and shuriken off course. It wasn't looking good for Mizuki's plan, as he really needed Naruto to fail in order to get him to steal the forbidden scroll. He hated to admit it, but that little demon was already twice the ninja he was in regards to stealth and infiltration. All he had to do was keep Iruka blinded to the truth of their little alliance by using the grief over his parents to fuel his hate. Mizuki realized they only had one chance left to fail the little monster, and that was during the 3 basic jutsu tests. If he couldn't do those, then it wouldn't matter how high he tested in the other portions of the exam, he would automatically be failed. The taijutsu portion of the exam was easy for Naruto. It didn't test their knowledge or form. The test was a simple "how long can you stay in the ring" against the teacher's test. Of course, they took it easy on everyone except Naruto, which meant all except a few lost causes failed. When Naruto's turn came up, Mizuki made sure to go all out on him. It caught Naruto by surprise, as even though he expected them to be rougher on him, he didn't expect them to go so far. Mizuki took advantage, and after a quick punch that slightly dazed Naruto, he followed up with a roundhouse kick, but Naruto managed to duck down fast enough and avoid the hit. Naruto maneuvered Mizuki around until he could see the clock had 20 seconds left, so he moved towards Mizuki and weaved through his increasingly desperate attacks until he got close enough to hit him with a chakra-enhanced punch to the gut that knocked the wind out of him, and then followed with 2 quick kicks to the knees and then a roundhouse kick to his temple, knocking him out just as the timer went off. Okay, maybe a little after the timer went off. The rest of the class just stood their mouths open as flies went in and out. He wasn't surprised by the reaction, as his clones mostly forfeited when anyone who could do even a little damage was his opponent, as they might dispel or accidentally kill one of his more permanent clones. Iruka snapped out of it, and after glaring at Naruto he rushed to his friend's side with smelling salts, waking him up. The class silently walked back to the classroom to wait for their teachers so they could finish up the exam. Iruka, what happened? Did I kill the demon? Sorry man, the little shit got you good. I was too surprised to see that he could do that stuff to stop him, but we'll get him. He may know some Bunshin types, but there's no way he can do the Academy version. We'll just stipulate that it has to be the Academy Bunshin, and do it in the back room so he doesn't see the others pass even if they don't do a perfect one. Mizuki gingerly nodded his head as a dull throbbing sensation coursed through it. I really have to kill that little bastard after he gets me the scroll. Naruto and his classmates just sat there waiting. The rest of the class was talking to each other and eyeing Naruto cautiously. They couldn't believe the dead last had aced the written test, hit the bullseye perfectly in the weapon test, and then knocked out one of their teachers. Even Sasuke had only managed to place second in the written portion behind Sakura, hit 18-20 targets on the weapons test, and last until the timer went off against Mizuki. For Naruto to display the level of intelligence and skill that he has displayed would go against everything the last 4 years would indicate. He wasn't bad except supposedly with jutsu, but he wasn't supposed to be good, at least not this good. I could still take him though, right boy? Akamaru just looked at Kiba and then Naruto, and then laid down. Yeah, I know I could, and then I'd bet the girls would be all over me and forget about that jerk Sasuke. Kiba dissolved into a fit of perverted giggles as people moved away from him slowly. Everything grew quiet as Iruka and Mizuki walked back into the classroom with Mizuki leaning against Iruka for support. Okay everybody, we're almost finished. We will begin to call you one by one into the back room to perform Henge, Kwarami, and Bunshin Jutsu. Once you complete the test, you will choose a headband if you've passed, and then you are to leave out the classroom door and proceed to the front of the school where you can leave the grounds or wait for whoever is coming to get you. You are to return tomorrow morning for your team placement. For those of you who don't pass, you will be given the option to return next semester and try again, or to become a civilian. If your decision is to return, you have a week to get in contact with one of us or the principal. Okay, now listen up for your name, and come in when you're called. Naruto watched as everyone went and completed the exam. He watched as most seemed to come out with a headband tied somewhere on their bodies as they ran outside to greet family or friends and show off. He actually felt a little sad for the ones that came out with no headband, their heads down, looking ashamed as they walked out the door. They would most likely, even if it was only their first failure, give up and become a civilian. Though a few he spied had a look of determination that showed they would be back next year. One way or another, I won't be one of them, but I could imagine feeling differently if that incident hadn't happened. Uzumaki, Naruto, it's your turn. Mizuki called, doing his best to hide his disgust, but of course it didn't work as Naruto picked up on it easily. Okay, Naruto replied as he walked into the back room as Mizuki closed the door behind him. Okay, Naruto, all you have to do is perform a henge, Kwarami, and finally a regular bunshin and you're done. Naruto just smiled at both of them before he henged into a perfect henge of Mizuki, and then waved at the man, before he used Kwarami to switch positions with Mizuki and then switched back still in the henge. But to his credit, Mizuki kept his calm and even praised Naruto on his skill. What the hell is going on here? Why is Mizuki praising the demon? Iruka was so lost in thought that he almost missed Naruto's attempt at a bunshin, but he smiled as he saw it on the ground looking sickly and near death. Sorry, Naruto, but you fail. If you can't even perform a simple bunshin, then there is no hope in you being a shinobi. Naruto had to pinch himself to stop the smile that was forming on his face, but inside his head he was laughing at the two pathetic excuses for shinobi. I can't believe they allowed their hate to cloud their judgments so much. Oh well, I'd better get out of here. I certainly don't need or want to hear any more from these two. I should probably go out the back way though, as I'm sure there is still a crowd out there waiting to see if the demon passed or not. Naruto was brought out of his thoughts as he heard Mizuki for some reason try and get Iruka to give him another shot. He has something planned, but unfortunately for him I'm not playing along. They already gave me what I want. The two shinobis' argument evolved into a fight, and they didn't even notice that Naruto had left until they heard the classroom door close. Before Iruka could even turn back to his friend, he was also gone, leaving him completely confused and questioning everything that happened that day. Meanwhile, Mizuki had just caught up with Naruto, who was only a few blocks from his apartment complex. Naruto, wait up! Shouted Mizuki, causing Naruto to turn and stare at the man. What can I help you with, Mizuki-san? Well, I was a little worried you were taking what happened back there hard, but I can see that you seem to be fine. Mizuki, for his part, was wondering exactly why he wasn't and if this was going to affect his plan. One door closes and another opens, as they say. I think I will go to civilian school and then maybe travel around, as I don't think I'll find what I'm looking for in Konoha. Naruto finished as he watched Mizuki's reaction. The man seemed to be in a mild state of panic, but he couldn't be sure. Damn it, the little demon is messing up all my plans. No, I won't allow this. I deserve everything Orochimaru-sama is going to give me when I hand him that scroll, and this little shit is going to get it for me. Well, that's a very mature way of looking at this, Naruto. But what if I told you there was a second secret test you could take that would allow you to become a genin? I would say I'm listening. It will be a test of stealth, secrecy, and information gathering. All you need to do is steal the forbidden scroll, Konoha's scroll of seals, from the Hokage's office without anyone seeing you and deliver it to me later tonight in the woods behind the school training grounds. Okay, how long do I have to complete this test? Naruto asked. Until 10 p.m. After that you fail automatically and you'll never become a ninja. Okay, see you then. Naruto just walked away, missing the evil grin that was plastered on Mizuki's face. Mizuki, however, missed the evil smile that was on Naruto's face as he walked towards the tower. Half an hour later, Naruto was knocking on the Hokage's door after he managed to make his way past the hateful guards, ninjas, and secretaries that worked at the tower. Come in, he heard as he opened the door and walked in, taking a seat in front of the veteran Hokage. Oh, hello, Naruto. To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit? The Hokage was surprised with the visit, as it seemed like the blonde wanted to be anywhere but near him these last 4 years. It did save him from having to use one of his Anbu to track him down so he find out what happened during the test. He had watched the whole thing, and right up until he bunched in he fully believed the blonde was going to pass. He had even picked out his team. He thought Naruto liked Sasuke and Sakura as he saw him sitting with them frequently in class when he spied on him. Of course, he overlooked the way the pink-haired girl always seemed to yell at the blonde and tried to hit him, or the way he seemed to be trying to avoid Sasuke. They'll be the perfect team and with time may even become the next Sannin. Actually, I came for 2 reasons. The first is to tell you that the Chunin teacher Mizuki approached me half an hour ago, or so about stealing a scroll from your office as a means of passing some secondary test after I failed the graduation exam today. That is troubling. Are you sure about this? Because Mizuki has never once shown any signs of being a traitor? I don't know, that depends on if you think it would be treasonous for me to knock you out right now and take the scroll of sealing so I can deliver it to Mizuki later tonight. I see. Hiruzen took up a thinking pose. I could just send Umbu to find the fool and let that be the end of it, but then there's Naruto to consider. I need him to become a shinobi to both fulfill my promise to his parents, and to better protect him from the council and his father's enemies, not to mention these Akatsuki people Jiraiya has been telling me about lately. Naruto, how would you like to help me deal with Mizuki and become a genin as well? I'd say no thank you, Hokage-san. That's good, my boy, now let's wait, what did you say? I said no thanks, Hokage-san. Nani? No thanks is what I'd like to say, but I had a meeting with the daimyo earlier this week. Sarutobi had calmed down enough to hear this. What? When? Where? Why? How? Sarutobi was truly and completely confused by this. He didn't even think Naruto knew there was a daimyo, let alone talk to the man. I left the village after Chunin Academy teacher Yumino Irika figured out my little trick with my bunshin technique. The Hokage had to interrupt. When did you learn a bunshin technique, and what was this trick of yours? I hope it wasn't another prank, Naruto. It's not a big deal. I found a teacher outside of the academy who was willing to teach the demon brat. Naruto, I know you're frustrated and all, but you have to understand it doesn't matter anyway. When I met the daimyo and told him of my situation, he seemed surprised. He told me that a group of councilmen and your advisors regularly came to see him, and that they told him I was being well taken care of. It seems he knew my parents, and was giving them extra funding to make sure I was being looked after. Naruto really wanted to laugh as the man turned pale at the implications of all this. Oh, so you know, Hokage-san, he is sending a team of investigators and accountants sometime during the week to find out what happened with those funds. Now the Hokage was close to fainting, but he wasn't the Hokage for nothing, so he pulled it together. Okay, are you to thanks F for letting me know. No problem, he wanted me to inform you anyway, because he will also be sending along 2 of his guardian sons. They are coming to Konoha to become ninja and learn more about Konoha and the world of shinobi. It was his solution to a problem I shared I might have, since he practically ordered me to become one as well. Naruto had the Hokage's full attention now. What problem would that be, Naruto-kun? I really hope it's something I can help with, as Naruto really does deserve to find a little happiness. The fact that I don't trust a single person in this village to not kill me when they find an opportunity, let alone expect them to have my back on missions. His solution was these 2 boys who have been training since they could walk and really wanted to be ninja. He said they were a little older than me and already have undergone their elemental and weapons training. They haven't unlocked their second element yet, but they have mastered one according to their fathers. Well, that's to be expected, Naruto. Most of our ninja don't even begin to learn to control an element until they make Chunin. So it's quite a feat that they already have mastered one, and I'm sure they'll make a fine addition to the village, said the old man, giving Naruto his best smile. So if I told him I can control 7 elements, and I'm working towards using 2 or 3 more, he'd probably force me into Umbu or something. I'd better keep quiet about the full extent of my abilities for now. I'm sorry, Hokage-san, but it seems I wasn't clear. Technically, they nor I will be ninjas for this village. We will wear the headband and swear loyalty to the daimyo and you, but in 3 years' time we will quit. The contract I signed with the daimyo for my freedom runs for 3 years, and then my 2 teammates will return to the capital, and I will be allowed to either reside safely in Fire Country, or given safe passage to any other country I wish to live in. Of course, there is also the chance I may stay and continue on, but I wouldn't count on it. The Hokage was beginning to swear a bit. Contract? He signed a contract with the daimyo? I can't do anything but nod my head thanks to those stupid annoying idiots on the council. Sarutobi took a deep breath to clear his mind a little. Fine, just let me see the contract and sign it if need be. Naruto just handed it over to him and watched as he read, seemingly deep in thought. After a few minutes the document was signed and he called in his secretary. Yes, Hokage-sama, you called for me. The woman looked over at Naruto and sneered at him. Naruto just ignored the woman, as he was used to this. It seemed no matter how many secretaries the man went through, they all seemed to share one common trait, an unabashed hatred for him. Ah, yes. I would like it if you would take this contract and make a few copies, please. As you wish, Lord Hokage. Nothing was said until she was out the door and the lock clicked back in place. In the contract I saw where the daimyo has stated you are to be given access to Jounin level material? Yes, Hokage-san. It was what I wanted out of this deal so that my growth won't be stunted and prevent me from being strong enough to protect myself in the future. However, there is a limit to the number of techniques I can learn per month unless given permission by you. The Hokage just nodded and went on to his next issue. I read that as well, but you will have to be accompanied by either your sensei or me, okay? It's not that I don't trust you, but there are some things better left unknown. Naruto just nodded as there were ways around that if the arrangement didn't meet his needs. Okay, moving on, it states here the daimyo expects me to give you money to buy out the apartment complex you live at and do some renovations? Yes. After he heard the conditions I have been forced to live with since I was 4, he was particularly angry as the council told him I was living in a house with adopted parents who loved me. The Hokage once again paled at the treachery displayed by the council. Those greedy idiots never bothered to think one simple unplanned visit by the boy would send their plans and this village into chaos thanks to their lies. I'm really sorry, Naruto. I really did try to make that lie a reality, but it doesn't matter anymore. Anyway, he expects you to buy my current landlord out at market value for the property, and no more than give me adequate money and tools to do the renovations on my own. Naruto, that's an impossible task to let you do on your own. It will be difficult, but once again I don't trust anyone here to help me, so it will have to be done this way. Oh Naruto, I'm such a fool for letting you get this way. You should be able to trust that not everyone is out to get you. Okay, well, I've already signed off on this, so I will go along with this. But if you need any help, please let me know. He didn't even get a nod in reply from this. Okay, about the part that talks about your ability to defend yourself. I see there are penalties for attacks on you or your property? Yes. The daimyo, after hearing about some of the things that happened to me, decided if law wasn't enough of a deterrent, then they would pay monetarily. I get that, but it doesn't say what happens if they can't pay. Oh, it does in fine print. If they can't pay, then I get any possessions of theirs that are equal to the amount owed. It also states they are responsible for anything of mine they damage or break in the attack. Okay, but I expect you to remember you're a ninja now, Naruto, and you can't go around beating up civilians no matter what they say or do. The daimyo gave me permission to protect myself, but I will do my best to avoid confrontations and fights. Besides, the daimyo also had your worries, so he made me promise to not use lethal force unless it was unavoidable. I mean, even the strongest warrior can be taken down by the weakest civilian if the timing is right or the numbers too great. The Hokage could only nod in agreement as his words rang with a wisdom that belied his age. Okay Naruto, just do your best, okay? Finally, this last part about your inheritance. Does this mean you know about your parents? Yes. The daimyo was kind enough to tell me their names and what he knew of them, and their wishes for me. However, he was unable to tell me if my mother was still alive or not, and if they left me anything. The Hokage took a minute to prepare himself for what he knew would come next. Your mother is alive, but I'm afraid she left some time before your first birthday and I don't know where she is. I'm also sorry to say she took almost everything, and what she didn't take the council did. The only thing left for me to give you is a scroll your father left for you. Sarutobi got up and went to a painting on the wall and gently removed it, then set it down. There was a hidden safe and Naruto watched as the Hokage opened it before grabbing a scroll and quickly closing the safe. He rehung the painting and then gave the scroll to Naruto as he again took his seat behind his desk. He waited a few minutes to see if Naruto was going to read it now, but all he did was drop it in a pocket. That leaves a request from me, Hokage-san, that wasn't in the agreement. Oh, what might that be? He probably wants money for past attacks. Sarutobi thought with a sigh at how much all this was going to cost him and the village. This wasn't added to the agreement, because the daimyo wanted me to hold off until I got the right information from you, but your answer of what happened with my mother tells me I'm doing the right thing. He now had his full attention. I no longer want to be known as Naruto Uzumaki. Instead, I just want to be Naruto until such time as I find the right last name, or get married, in which case I will take my wife's last name. The Hokage could only nod, wanting to get this over with before anything else came up. So now that we got that out of the way, and you are now a genin of the leaf, I am giving you your first mission. He received another nod. I really wish the old Naruto would come back. This Naruto is very unsettling. Finishing his thought, he started up again. You are to fake the theft of the scroll of sealing and meet Mizuki. You will discover his motives for this action and apprehend him. If you are unable to, a team of Umbu will be waiting in hiding and help you finish the mission. When you have him and the scroll secured, we will come out and take over from there. Any questions, Naruto? Will I be using the real scroll, or are you going to give me a fake to deceive Mizuki with? The Hokage went into deep thought for a moment. I really should give him a fake, but giving him the real thing would show my trust in Naruto. Plus, if Mizuki detects its fake, it will put him in an even more dangerous situation. I believe I can trust you, Naruto-kun, so I will let you steal the scroll. I hope you realize the level of trust I'm putting in you now. Give me a few minutes and then take the scroll. One of my Umbu will follow you and then more will be on their way. Naruto nodded and watched as the old man gathered up some paper and made his way to the door before he stopped and turned to face him. I know it may not seem like it, Naruto, but there are people in this village, including me, who care a great deal for you. Please think about that and be careful. After saying that, he left and went to engage his secretary in meaningless chatter for a few minutes, giving Naruto the time he needed. When he returned, he found a scroll sitting on his desk with a note attached to it and an empty office. Saratobi read it out loud. This is for me as much as you and those who follow you in leading this village. The daimyo thought this would solve a lot of problems. Consider this the first payment for me still being here. The Hokage unfurled the scroll and began to read. As he continued, a smile began to grow until it shone like the sun. I owe that boy more than I can ever repay him. I really hope that he will reconsider this agreement and be the hero this village needs. Now if only he could help me find a way to deal with all this paperwork. The old man just sighed tiredly and started to go through the stack of papers on his desk once more. It had been a few hours since Naruto left the old man's office with the scroll of sealing, and he still had an hour before 10 o'clock rolled around. He looked up at the sky to see the moon in all its beauty, as it provided the light for his clones as they went over the techniques that interested him. The scroll contained mostly sealing techniques, but he found some supplementary clone techniques and a few elementals that would take a while to learn even with the shadow clones, but could be trump cards against stronger opponents. The clone Great Explosion technique, the Shuriken Shadow Clone technique, Water Release, Great Waterfall technique, Earth Release, Swamp of the Underworld, and the Lightning Release armor. Naruto had no idea how Konoha got their hands on another Kage's technique. Maybe it was exchanged in the peace treaty over the Hyuga incident. Either way, he figured he got his hands on a very powerful technique that if he could master would give him an edge in battle. I'll have to be careful though, as I can't just use it any time I want, or it might cause problems for me. Maybe I could modify it and use my clones to see if it'll work with other elements. Naruto's thoughts were interrupted though, as he felt a couple of chakra sources coming towards him that were at least mid to high level chunin. However, it worried him a bit when he noticed the second was lagging a couple of minutes behind the first one. As he pondered on who they could be, he instructed his clones to go further into the forest and keep working on the techniques until they were out of energy. Remembering the level of the techniques, he created 50 more clones and sent them with the others. Perhaps I should have wrote some of those techniques down on a blank scroll, as it will take a while to master them. Thinking it was the best course of action, he created one more clone and sent it with the scroll a little ways away so it could copy the techniques and then leave the original, while taking the copy to his apartment and hide it before dispersing. It was also ordered to double-check the entire scroll and see if there may have been a technique or two he overlooked and copy them as well. Just as the clone got situated in its hiding spot and began to copy the techniques and what was said about them, one of the chakra sources came out to confront Naruto, while the other hung back, making Naruto even more on edge. Naruto Uzumaki! What have you done? Naruto just looked at the man for a minute as he was breathing hard from his outburst. Ano, but didn't Mizuki-san tell you? The Chunin adopted a confused look and stared at the young Jinchuriki. Tell me what? That I chose to do the secret second exam and steal the forbidden scroll while learning one jutsu from it before handing it over to him. Now alarm bells were going off in Irika's head. Kami, I let him use my hate to harm a mere child who's done nothing to me. Dropping his head a little in shame, Irika quickly got over it, remembering who told him Naruto stole the scroll. Naruto, listen to me, where is the scroll? Irika asked, looking at Naruto and the surrounding area so they could take it and get to the Hokage tower quickly before something bad happened. Yes, Naruto, where is the scroll? Both men turned to find Mizuki looking at them with a smirk on his face. Irika was internally panicking at the situation now that he realized what was going on and the role his best friend likely picked for him to play. I'm either going to be the so-called victim of the demon brat, or the unwitting hero/accomplice, as Mizuki gets away with the scroll and betrays Konoha worse than this boy could ever do. His thoughts were broken as Naruto spoke in a calm, almost reassuring voice. It's somewhere safe, Mizuki-san, but first, don't you want to see that technique you asked me to learn? Now it was Mizuki's turn to panic. Damn, now I have to kill Irika thanks to that fucking brat. Then a twisted smile was displayed on his lips. Of course I was planning to anyway, just not this soon, but it could work out better for me. After all, while I believe my old friend is a fool, I doubt he's a big enough fool to believe I had nothing to do with this now. No, Naruto, there isn't enough time right now, but if you hand over the scroll now, I'll hand you your Hitite in the morning when you and the other kids come to hear about whose team you're on and your sensei. Mizuki tried to give his best smile. Damn, the little brat is making this hard. Naruto, don't. Irika was stopped though as Naruto held a hand up towards the man. Well, Mizuki-san, that does sound good, except for the fact I've already been a genin of Konohagakure for the past 2 hours. Mizuki had had enough. Listen here, you little demon shit. You will give me the scroll and then die like a good little monster, okay? Mizuki's creepy smile only emphasized what he just said. Naruto just looked at the man without any expression. What you doing this for? Because your hate seems to be a little misdirected to me. You want to know why? Fine, I'll tell you. 12 years ago, the Yondaime Hokage did not defeat the Kyuubi like you were told. Mizuki, no, don't tell him. It's against the law. Naruto still stood impassively while Mizuki had a calculating look on his face as he gave his creepy smile. It's a little late for that, Irika. Besides, I know you hate the little demon as much, if not more, than almost anyone in the village. Irika could only hang his head in shame at the statement, but quickly looked up, leveling a glare at his former friend. You're right, I have done some terrible things to a child who deserved none of it, but Mizuki, on all our years of friendship, please, I'm begging you, don't tell him. If you stop right now, I'm sure the Hokage will forgive you and maybe even let you continue to be a shinobi. Mizuki only scoffed at the man and began to reach for his windmill shuriken. Like I would ever bow down to that old monkey. I've found a village and a kaiga with greater power and ambitions than that washed-up old fossil. He can't be that powerful, he needs you to do his dirty work. Shut up, demon! Orochimaru-sama has promised me power, status, and wealth as long as I get the scroll for him. Now I'm tired of waiting. Tell me where the scroll is and maybe you'll leave here alive. Naruto just gave the man a smirk. Aw, but if I did that then I would fail my very first mission. You wouldn't want that, would you, Mizuki-teen? I wouldn't be so confident, demon. Remember what I was saying before. Everyone's lied to you, the demon didn't die. The Yondaime sealed it into you, making you the demon. Now die, demon! Mizuki grabbed his shuriken and threw it as hard as he could at Naruto. Seeing this, Iruka tried to get in front of the blonde boy and take the hit, but was tripped and fell to the ground. He heard a weird sound almost like clanging metal, and when he looked up there stood Naruto, a katana in his hand thrust upward and what looked to be 2 pieces of a sliced-up windmill shuriken laying on the ground near him. You're really going to have to do better than that, Mizuki-san, if you expect to defeat me, Naruto said with a smirk as he lowered his arm. What the hell? When did he learn kenjutsu? Both men thought, but Mizuki shrugged it off and threw a second shuriken only for it to receive the same fate. Iruka just moved to the side, not really knowing what to do anymore. A part of him wanted to help Naruto and find a way to make up some of what he's done to him, but a small part of him still saw him as the demon that killed his family, so he just settled for staying out of the way for now. Besides, it doesn't look like the little gaki needs my help anyway. I guess he was doing more than skipping and pranking when he was using those clones. Sighing, he took his mind away from his thoughts and watched the continuing battle. Fine, if that don't work, then how about this? Naruto watched as he saw him start to do hand seals as he started drawing in the air to his lungs before calling out. Katan, Gokaku no Jutsu, as a flame that turns into a giant fireball comes out of his mouth and through the ring his fingers made. Naruto smiled as he did a ninjutsu of his own without calling out Doton, Dochu Igyo no Jutsu, and went underground waiting for the fireball to pass. Mizuki smiled when the fireball dissipated and the brat was nowhere in sight. Ha, too easy. Then he frowned. Damn, now I have no way of finding the scroll before those idiots in Umbu find me. Turning to see his friend stare at the scorched earth in shock, he addressed him. I'd like to let you live, Iruka, but the truth is I've always hated you, and since you're the only witness to what went on here, I can't let you leave. Look on the bright side though. When everyone finds out what happened here, you'll be seen as a hero who died killing the demon brat and finished what Yondaime-sama started. Mizuki started to do more hand seals to finish the job and get out of Konoha quickly, but stopped as the ground near the scorched area shook a bit, and then something yellow popped out of the ground, followed by a head and then a torso, and finally he was staring into the blue eyes of Uzumaki Naruto. Sorry, Mizuki-san, it won't be that easy, but now I have to put an end to this as I can't show everything I've been working on yet. Mizuki tried to do the hand seals again, but Naruto flashed through his first, beating him to it as he calls out Futon, Diatapa, as the wind around the blonde suddenly explodes out, hitting Mizuki dead on and pushing him into a tree, knocking him out. Moving quickly, Naruto takes some ninja wire and ties Mizuki up, then signals for the Umbu, who quickly come down, scooping Mizuki up, quickly taking him to Ibiki. It was just Naruto and Iruka now in the clearing. Iruka was slightly in shock about that happened since the test began. He didn't know what to think about himself after reviewing all the hateful things he had done under the guise of revenging his family. Then he looked to the boy he once hated and watched as he went behind a tree and retrieved the scroll of sealing. How can he be such a good kid in spite of the many evil deeds done to him by people like me and that council? If he ever did seek revenge, it would rightfully be his to seek. He stopped his thoughts when he noticed Naruto was leaving without so much as a glance towards him, so he called out to him. Naruto, could you wait a moment as I would like to talk to you? Naruto stopped and turned to look at his former instructor. Iruka sighed as he realized Naruto wasn't going to say anything. I would like to say I'm sorry before he could get any further, though Naruto interrupted him. I thank you for your apology, but it is wasted on me. I do not forgive you or anyone in this village, including the Hokage, for what has been done to me. However, I do not seek revenge. I just want to be left alone. Why? Why what? Why don't you seek revenge? Surely if any of us were in your position, we would have a long time ago. Well, that is one thing I'm proud of, and that's not being like any of you. Hate only begets more hate, and violence only brings more violence. I am by no means a pacifist, as I will kill when it is necessary, but I will not bloody my hands for this village. Anyways, I got to go give this back and get ready for team assignments tomorrow, so I'll see you then. Naruto turned to leave, but was stopped once again as the Chunin ran up to the young blonde. How about, as a further means of apology, you allow me to buy you dinner? No thanks. I only eat with those I trust. Naruto didn't even wait to see the look of shame followed by one of shock on the Chunin's face as he shoeshined to the tower. Naruto shoeshined right to the front of the tower. He quickly made his way through and up to the Hokage's office. He managed to avoid most of the people who tried to keep him away from the Hokage and only had to deal with one annoyance. Finally making his way up to the door, he just ignored the secretary and knocked on the door. Hearing enter, Naruto opened the door and made his way inside. The Hokage looked up from his paper and smiled. Naruto, glad to see you are alive and unharmed. I take it things went well then? Yes. I didn't learn everything, but I'm sure Ibiki or his assistant will get it out of him. The Hokage took note of the tone he used for Anko and sighed. I guess he's serious about having nothing to do with her. Too bad. She would have been perfect to oversee his team, and it would have helped her as well. I'm sure they will. Ibiki is quite talented and well known for his style of interrogation. I've heard. Anyway, I did learn why he wanted the scroll. At this, the Hokage perked up a bit. Oh, why's that? He said Orochimaru promised him things, and then he said some disparaging things about the village and you. He also said that Orochimaru was recruiting him to join his village, though he didn't name it. This is serious information indeed, Naruto. I want to congratulate you on a job well done and hand you your pay personally. The Hokage gave Naruto an envelope with 200,000 ryu. This will be documented as a solo B rank as your pay reflects. I would make it S rank, but I don't think Mizuki is worthy of that distinction. Naruto just nodded and pocketed the money. Okay, now I want you to know the landlord issue has already been dealt with and the money for the renovations will be given to you when you are ready. Naruto just nodded again. There is one last thing, Naruto. The council somehow at this he looked around at the hidden Umbu wondering who it was, but thought better of it. No, it was most likely that damn secretary. No matter how many I fire, they all seem to be plants of that damnable council. Anyway, they somehow found out about your time away and have called a meeting that will commence in a few minutes. I would like you to accompany me. At this, both men shared a grin that promised a lot of pain and possibly death to someone. Sure, if you let me carry out the daimyo's second order on that scroll I left you. Sarutobi continued to smile. Sorry, Naruto, but that is something I've been waiting to do for decades now. Fine, but I get the others if you deem it necessary. I'm sure something can be arranged, Naruto-kun. Now let's go, we don't want to keep them waiting, do we? After you, Hokage-san. Both just smiled. That was about to happen. I think I'll use this to reveal a bit of myself, and show those bastards just who they've been messing with. Naruto had to stifle the evil cackle that threatened to come out as they continued to make their way towards council chambers. The council meeting was already in session as far as the council was concerned. They would of course inform the Hokage later after they decided the fate of one Uzumaki Naruto. The decision was mostly made as save for a few holdouts the vote was to execute. Nobody dared vote against as they didn't want to lose their position or have the council turn on them like they had seen it do in the past to previous deceased members. There had been many meetings like these over the past 12, almost 13 years, but until now none of them thought he was a threat. Most still didn't, but the stealing of the forbidden scroll gave them an excuse. All deliberations were stopped before they could get a true vote when the doors opened and the Hokage walked in. The room instantly quieted, many cursing their luck, but the mood of the room instantly changed to anger and rage when they saw who was with him. Naruto walked in the room alongside the old man with no expression and not looking at anyone. He could feel their heated stares as they tried to will him to burst into flames and die. Ignoring them, he just looked forward until he caught sight of three people he really didn't like. The elders of the council stood up and greeted them. Hokage-sama, to what do we owe the honor of you being here and with that boy? The Hokage didn't answer. Instead, he slowly walked up and took his seat at the head of the council. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked around at the council, judging each one and thinking of what he was about to do. Before he could do anything, he was addressed by one of the civilians. Lord Hokage, what are you doing here? Sarutobi just stared at the stupid man for a minute. Actually, that's a question I would like you all to answer. The Hokage states, waiting for one of them to be dumb enough to say it. We were going to inform you, Hokage-sama, but we figured you were busy due to what was going on. At this, most of the counselors looked down at Naruto, doing little to hide their disdain for the boy. So we got together and were deliberating about the boy and what should happen to him. Well, then you can stop, because nothing will be happening to him. The council was outraged and voiced their displeasure, especially a mother of a certain pink-haired banshee whose voice was canceling out most of the others and giving everyone headaches. Shut up. This served to quiet everyone as they never believed their beloved old man could shout like that. Now, as I was saying. At this, he glared at the pink-haired woman who shrank back in her seat as he continued to say. Nothing will happen to him, because it was a special mission given to him by me to capture a traitor. This got their attention. I know, Hokage-sama, but what traitor? Asked Udatane Koharu. Earlier this evening, after failing a rigged genin exam, he looked down to see Naruto glaring up at him. A few observant councilmen decided to check into that later as the Hokage continued. I mean, Naruto was approached by his Chunin teacher assistant Mizuki, who tried to trick him into stealing the scroll of sealing for him under the guise of it being a test to become genin. The council had a hard time swallowing this, as they believed Naruto to be as dumb as a box of rocks and about just as talented. Well, save a few who had designs on the boy and knew he was hiding something. Wait, what do you mean tried? Danzo asked. The Hokage cleared his throat and smiled at Naruto, who answered. He means Mizuki thought of me just like you do, so he believed me when I went along with his little deception, thinking he was so smart, and I was so dumb, despite the fact that if he or Irika had graded my papers honestly, I would have earned top marks academically. Then he started laughing. I mean, do you really believe this woman's daughter is the top kunoichi of the class with 2 female clan heirs and her minuscule chakra levels against her? Naruto said as he pointed at the female civilian council member Hirano Shirori. I mean, I think we all know how she got that distinction, and it wasn't in the classroom. It's as they say, like mother, like daughter. Naruto said as the council erupted in laughter until a screeching yell caused everyone to cover their ears except for the unfortunate Anbu, who had to keep the woman from attempting to strangle Naruto. Soon enough, everything was calm again, and Naruto continued. Anyway, I informed Hokage-sen, who gave me permission to use the real scroll. Naruto was interrupted by one of the elders, who glared at his former teammate. You gave that boy the real scroll of sealing written by the Yondaime? The council was outraged at this lapse in judgment, as they began to think it was definitely time to replace the old coup, despite how good a figurehead he'd been. The Hokage ignored the whispers and answered. Yes. I believe Naruto-kun here has proven worthy of my trust, and then there was the chance Mizuki would have seen it was a fake and harmed him. That was the last straw, as most of the council was concerned. There would be a new Hokage as soon as they could get rid of the old man and call for a vote. Once again ignoring the dissension he was hearing among the council, the old man pressed on. Naruto-kun proved to be quite capable as well. He saved Chunin Yumino Irika from Mizuki, delivered the forbidden scroll without so much as a smudge on it, and found out the root of these actions taken by Mizuki, who I feared to be a bad seed since that incident with his former teammates. Oh, and why did he do these things? Asked Mitokata Hamura. He was exchanging the scroll for citizenship in another village, among other things, with Orochimaru. Hiruzen said sadly as the council was again in uproar. After a break to allow everyone to digest the information, the council convened again. So what do you plan to do about this? Yuditane Kohara asked. Part of the problem is already being dealt with, as we are searching for other hidden spies of the snakes or others. No one except a few prominent clan heads, Sarutobi, and Naruto noticed Danzo's flinch. There will also be some issues with this current crop of graduates that need to be fixed. Sarutobi says. What do you mean, Hokage-sama? Asked a civilian. I mean, it's just as Naruto-kun said. Unfortunately, due to the attempted sabotage of Naruto by the 2 Chunin who were in charge of this graduating class for most of their time in the academy, the other students were sabotaged instead. At this, shouts of "It's the demon's fault, and I knew this would happen" were shouted with glares towards the boy in question. Better a demon like Kyuubi than pieces of trash like the majority of this council, Naruto said while closing his eyes. This only served to incite more yelling and once again needing the Anbu to restrain some civilian and shinobi council members. Enough! The old man shouted again, leveling a field of ki on everyone that only the prominent clan heads and Naruto were able to shrug off. Once it was quiet again, the Hokage looked at Naruto. I know you're tired, Naruto, and these meetings can be tough, but I need you to wait a little longer, okay? Sarutobi said, giving Naruto a quick smile. What, that's it? You are not going to do anything about the disrespect he's shown this council? To let a mere civilian child before he got any further, Sarutobi interrupted again. I guess you are not that smart. This confused some of the council and angered the man in question. He's not a civilian anymore, as capturing Mizuki and finding out his motives was a mission I gave him, and he performed brilliantly. So he's a shinobi now. What? Was the deafening shout heard through the village. After clearing out his ears and getting rid of the ringing noise he kept hearing, Sarutobi tried again. I said he's a genin ninja of this village now. There were no more loud shouts, just shock. The council had lost their pet and most were pissed, but they were still determined to get their way. As to what Naruto-kun said about this council, I agree. After a couple minutes of shock, a second shout was heard throughout the village. What? Again he had to clear out his ears only to look at Naruto, and see he had earplugs in his ear. What? The pink one's daughter has been my classmate, or my clone's classmate, for the last 4 years. I just learned to keep a pair handy, Naruto said with a smile. The Hokage made give me signs with his hands, but Naruto just shook his head and smiled. Brat could have at least carried some extra, was the general thought. Giving up, the Hokage decided to end this before he went deaf. The reason I brought Naruto-kun with me is before I gave him his first mission. He told me something interesting, getting their attention again. He had a meeting with the daimyo earlier this week. The elders and several counselors nearly fainted at this, while the rest paled save for a few lucky idiots that thought it meant nothing. WWH, what were you doing in the capital, Naruto? Asked Hamura. Naruto answered him with an ever-growing smile. Certain events happened this past week that let me know I needed some protection, so I took a page out of this council's playbook and went straight to the big man. We had a discussion where I told him about my life. Naruto looked around and saw fear in a few eyes. I tried to convince him that, because of my lack of trust and disdain for Konoha in general, that I shouldn't be a shinobi and therefore be allowed to leave Konoha peaceably. Naruto looked around again and saw various reactions. Most of the civilians seemed happy they may be getting their wish and he'd be gone. The elders were still scared stiff. Danzo was pissed, as were some of the shinobi council, and curiosity was shown by the rest. Before he could continue, a civilian made their presence known. Thank Kami, finally we'll be safe. Before any others could join him in praising their deity of choice, though, Naruto continued. Anyway, as I was saying, I tried, but he would hear nothing of the sort. It seems he knew of my heritage and refused to let me walk away, so I made a deal with him. Hold up, why would he care whose parents some demon orphans were? Said another ignorant civilian. Because his parents are none other than Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato. The Hokage said as the council dissolved into more shouts and insults. Finally, after calling for another break, everyone took their seats, quietly for a change, and waited for an explanation. How is that possible, Hokage-sama? Asked an impatient Hyuga Hayashi. As you all may know, Kushina had a relationship with Minato-kun. He got many nods at this, as all the female council members and most of the men thought of how they tried to court one of them. Sarutobi continued. What you don't know is they secretly married and had Naruto. Why else do you think he was used, despite being one of the oldest babies in the hospital? He let this sink in. However, a few months before Naruto-kun's first birthday, she suddenly fled the village, leaving him behind in my office with a note to take care of him. What happened to her? I don't know, the Hokage answered truthfully. I can answer that all eyes were back on Naruto, some holding looks of sorrow and guilt. She was attacked by a group of blank-masked Umbu. Well, at least that's what she told the daimyo when she swung by the capital before leaving Fire Country. At this, everyone gasped and turned towards Danzo. WW what? My group was disbanded long before then. It could have been anyone, Danzo said. Anyway, the daimyo said he could help her, but she just asked him to keep an eye on Konoha and me. He asked her why, and her reply was that it wasn't the first attack on us, and that the first 9 months of my life she had spent doing nothing but fending off attack after attack from civilians, the blank masks, and even fellow ninjas she had fought with and thought of as friends. She just wanted peace and felt bad for leaving me behind with a bunch of monsters, but felt if she left with me she would have no peace and be hunted until we were both killed. Plus, she thought the Hokage would be able to protect me better than she could. Obviously, she was wrong. Naruto finished, and noticed more sad and guilty looks among the group. Naruto, that's not what you told me before, the Hokage said. I told you he told me what he knew, but like I just said, she left almost 12 years ago, and just disappeared, so he doesn't know where she is or what's happened to her since. The Hokage just sighed and gave up. Besides, Hokage-san, I believe it's time the council learns of the change in policy signed by the daimyo. Both began to smile, and the entire council felt a cold wind tickle their spine. I believe you're right, Naruto-kun. The Hokage stood up and looked at his former teammates, and Danzo with a smirk as he began. Due to the actions of some of this council, the daimyo in his meeting with Naruto asked him to give me this scroll. He held the scroll up and unfurled it before continuing. He has given me the ability to disband this council, and I am, until further notice, the Konoha Council is disbanded and never to darken my office again. The shouts of outrage and threats of violence commenced until the Umbu escorted everyone except for Danzo out of the room and circled him before he could escape. What is the meaning of this, Sarutobi? Danzo spat with as much anger as he could muster. I think you know what this is about, old friend. Danzo was looking around for any means of escape, but saw none. Let's end this peacefully, Danzo. You had a nice run, but you went too far. Danzo laughed. You fool, it's people like me that allowed the tree huggers like you to continue to spew your soft-hearted ideals and stay safe at night. The shinobi world is full of danger and isn't a place for weak-minded old fools like you have become. The Hokage just spit at Danzo's feet. No, it's scum like you that continue turn these lands into nothing but battlefields. I shudder to think what this village would look like if you ever gained the power you've gone so far to obtain. Whatever, we've never seen eye to eye, Sarabaka. Na assemble. Danzo was surrounded by 20 of his root soldiers as he threw his cloak away, showing his right arm held 10 Sharingan embedded in it. Then he removed the bandages on his head, revealing another Sharingan. The Hokage was beyond himself with rage at what his one-time friend and teammate had apparently done. What is the meaning of this, Danzo? You mean the eyes? Do you like? I had my best Irionin, medic, transplant them after the Uchiha massacre. Suddenly things clicked for Naruto. Wait, so you're one of those guys that set up Itachi-san? Naruto said with a low growl. I guess there is no point in hiding it. Yes, with help of a ninja who's held a long-standing grudge against the Uchiha clan, my soldiers destroyed that pathetic clan before anyone knew we did it, and set him up to take the fall. Sarutobi was truly shocked by how far his friend had fallen. Why Danzo? Why do all this? Kushina? The Uchihas? We used to be best friends and shared the same ideals. He was caught off guard by a laugh from Danzo. Please, that bitch would have gotten in the way of my attaining the ultimate weapon, and that clan gave me the means to control it. As far as our friendship, that's been dead ever since the day you stole my glory and took credit for my idea of being the decoy against those Kumo-nin, and the second rewarded you with what should have been mine. I should have become the Sandaime Hokage, not you. It should be my face on the Hokage mountain. Now Danzo was interrupted by a laugh, but this time by Naruto. Wow, you're an even more pathetic old fart than I originally thought you were. I bet you can't even use those eyes, and you'll never get me, Danzo-tem, so I hope you have another Jinchuriki stashed away somewhere. Danzo furiously replied. You will submit to me, boy, and I will be Hokage. Now hush up while the adults settle things. Now enough talk, to capture the boy and kill anyone that gets in your way. Turning his attention back to Sarutobi, he says. Let's do this, old friend. Anbu, capture or kill them all. Naruto stays safe, the Hokage orders as he prepares to do battle. Don't worry about me, old man. I got a few hidden abilities I'd like to try out myself. Naruto said as his eyes flashed a bright orange color before settling down to a darker orange color. Naruto saw the shock in the Hokage's eyes as he looked at his dojutsu. We'll talk later. Anbu-san, how about we give the Hokage a little room and take this elsewhere? Before they could answer, Naruto with the na on his tail ran outside the building with Anbu following them closely. Naruto reached the outside and saw that most of what was the council was still there. The council saw him, or more specifically his eyes, and gasped. Is that a dojutsu? One of the civilians asked. I think so. Hyuga Hayashi answered. His parents didn't have one. Inazuka-san said. It must be the Kyuubi's doing. Nara Shikaku responds. At this everyone bristles. Nothing more was said as the Na came and surrounded him, and then the Anbu surrounded them. The clan heads decided to back up and give them some space, but wanted to see what the boy could do. The civilians ran as fast and as far as they could to escape the imminent battle. Hiruzen Sarutobi vs Shimura Danzo. Alone now, both men began to size one another up and then in a burst of speed ran towards each other with speeds you wouldn't expect from men half their age. Hiruzen threw a jab at Danzo's head. Danzo turned slightly to the left as the punch missed and landed a punch on Sarutobi's chest. He retaliated with a punch to Danzo's stomach. Both men broke apart and held their hands a bit. I see you came prepared, Danzo. Danzo removed his shirt, revealing armor that covered his torso. You as well, Saru. Sarutobi tossed away his Hokage robes and hat, revealing his black jumpsuit with hidden armor plating underneath. He then summoned Enma, the Monkey King. Hello, Saru, what's the trouble this time? Enma asked, only to receive a point in the opposite direction. Finally getting rid of the old warhawk? What's brought this change in policy? Enma asked. Sarutobi answered with one word. Naruto. Enma just smiled, baring his fangs at Danzo. Well, what are we waiting for? Henge, Kongoni, that's all it took as Enma transformed into his black and yellow staff form as Sarutobi took him and did a few swings and spins. Damn, I don't have a weapon capable of taking them on, and the Sharingans won't be much use right now. I still haven't completely figured out that technique. Danzo thought quickly. Taking out a kunai, Danzo quickly threw it at the duo and then ran out a back door. After deflecting the kunai, Sarutobi ran after him, closing the gap quickly. He threw Enma end over end at Danzo, hitting him in his back, breaking a few bones. But Danzo refused to lose, so he spun his body, taking a deep breath despite the pain, and released a devastating wind attack futon, Shinkahol, wind release, vacuum wave. Sarutobi quickly flashed the Tiger Hand seal and unleashed his own Jutsu Katan, Karyudan, fire release, fire dragon flame missile. Those outside watching the battle with the root soldiers looked up when they heard the sound of glass breaking and quickly used Shunshine or Kawarimi to get out of the way of a large amount of falling glass. Sarutobi's flame met Danzo's wind and doubled in size and strength as it now flew at Danzo, who cursed not being able to use any earth or wood jutsu in the building, so he tried to use a stronger wind jutsu. Flashing the dog hand seal after taking another deep breath, he expelled the technique futon, Shinku-renpa, wind release, vacuum serial waves, as several blades of wind shot at the incoming fire attack. The attack again changed direction and tripled in strength as the flames became white-hot, melting almost everything in its path as it came back at the Hokage. Deciding two could play that game, Hiruzen did the Tiger Seal again and used half of his remaining chakra to boost the power and called out Katan, Karyudan. This time Danzo knew there was no way to cancel the jutsu, so he tried to Kawarimi with Sarutobi, but that failed. Looking outside, he saw the battle going on with his Naso. In order to save himself, he Kawarimi'd with one of his own soldiers and got out of the way of the technique. After a few seconds of disorientation, the soldier saw what was barreling down on him. He had one last thought, shit, as the technique collided with him, instantly incinerating him. The Hokage also decided to Kawarimi with a root agent as the technique exploded and white-hot flames were coming back towards him. Then the agent shared his former comrade's thoughts as he was also incinerated along with the walls in that corridor. Naruto was bored. Anbu had shown up and quickly surrounded the 20 agents, incapacitating most of them before he even took a step. So he had just been standing around after deactivating his eyes. Then the windows of the building the Hokage was in exploded, showering the area in the glass. Then a few of the routine disappeared, only to be replaced by Danzo first, and then the Hokage. Naruto walks over to the Hokage as the only 2 root agents who had yet to be captured stood side by side with Danzo. Tough fight, Hokage-san? Naruto asked. Yeah, it's been a while since these old bones have seen action, Naruto-kun. You just remember to enjoy your youth while you still have it. Sarutobi answered. Naruto laughs, but then focuses on Danzo and his 2 henchmen. The Yamanaka and Aburame clan heads gasp as they each recognize one of the men standing next to Danzo as former clan members who were believed to be dead. Hearing the commotion going on, a number of shinobi and villagers had come to investigate what was going on, including a group of soon-to-be genin. They all saw Naruto standing next to the Hokage and wondered what the dead last loser was doing there. Sasuke, though, was focused on one thing and one thing only, and that was Danzo's arm with the 10 Sharingan and his fully matured Sharingan in his right eye. How could he possess those? Is he an Uchiha? No. I remember this was one of those council people my dad told me to watch out for before he died. What's going on here? He was drawn out of his thoughts when he heard Naruto. What is the dope doing there? He'll only get in the way? Sasuke thought. Hokage-san, I think I have a technique that will help end this without any more bloodshed. Sarutobi looked at the boy skeptically, but decided to trust him. Okay, Naruto, go ahead. Naruto did the tiger hand seal and held it as his eyes flashed orange once again. Then he called out Kokuanjio no Jutsu, bringer of darkness technique. The Hokage, Danzo, and most of the older ninja were beyond shocked. How the hell does he know how to do that jutsu? Only the first and second Hokages could use that. Kurenai, who had arrived just as Naruto started to perform the jutsu, was drooling over the technique. Maybe I can get him to teach it to me, she thought, and then started to come up with ways to get it out of him. The younger ninja and civilians didn't see what the big deal was and deemed it weak, like they believed Naruto to be, except for Sasuke, who could literally feel the power used to perform the jutsu, and knew he must have it. The Hokage quickly threw 3 kunai at Danzo, who used his sense of hearing to dodge them. That's a pretty good genjutsu, kid, but how long can you keep this up? Danzo asked. Naruto's response was to throw 2 kunai of his own, but these had exploding tags on them. Danzo and his 2 agents held their ground as they could hear the kunai coming and easily deflected them, but as soon as they did, they heard the sizzling sound like an exploding tag getting ready to go off. KUSO! The 3 called out as they tried to escape, but they were too late as the tags went off, exploding right in front of them. They were blown away a few feet, still alive but badly burned and injured. Naruto ended his darkness technique, and the Hokage walked up to where Danzo was lying. Enma ended the transformation knowing the battle was over as Sarutobi took one of his Anbu's tanto and cut Danzo's head off. Enma just puffed back to the summon world after ruffling Naruto's hair a bit, knowing that despite their differences and all the evil the man had done, Sarutobi would take having to kill his childhood friend very hard. Some Anbu immediately came in and broke up the crowd as a few took custody of Fu and Torian, being especially careful of Torian as they didn't want to be poisoned by his micro-bugs. After breaking up the crowd and gathering the rest of the agents that hadn't been killed, they shuned to the TI department, who would deal with the next step. The Yamanaka and Aburame head followed them. The road was empty now, and it was just Naruto, the Hokage, and Danzo's body. Naruto walked up to the Hokage. Will you be okay, Hokage-san? Naruto asked as he watched the old man just stare at the body of his former friend and comrade. I'll be fine, Naruto-kun. It's just hard seeing a former friend end up the way he did. I can't help but think back on things and question where it all went wrong. The Hokage took out a scroll and bent down, then sealed Danzo's body and head away to be dealt with later. Standing up, Hiruzen noticed how late it was, but knew it would be a long night for him dealing with the aftermath of all that's happened. He turned to face Naruto. Naruto-kun, it's late, and I'm sure you are tired. Why don't you head home and get some sleep before your big day tomorrow? Hi, Hokage-san, Naruto said as he began to walk off. Oh, and Naruto. Naruto turned around and looked at the old man, seeing the tiredness in his face as he seemed to grow new wrinkles every minute. Come see me after team assignments, as we need to talk. Oh, and is there anything you really want to learn from your Jounin-sensei? Naruto thought about it for a moment. I guess I could use a good kenjutsu teacher the most, as I have 2 swords, but I haven't been able to learn a real style yet, same with my taijutsu. Okay, Naruto, I'll see what I can do. Good night. Thanks, Hokage-san. Good night to you as well. Naruto walked off, leaving the old man to walk back to his office alone. Well, this was a productive day. Indeed it was, Naruto-kun, although I think you reveled a little too much about your abilities. Hey Kane-sensei, I was wondering when you would talk to me again. You were awfully quiet today. It didn't seem like you needed my help and you needed to concentrate. Thanks for the vote of confidence. As for showing too much, it really doesn't matter. They would find out anyway, and with Danzo gone, much of the threat in this village has been reduced. Hey, don't let your guard down. For all you know, Danzo was nothing but a puppet. Plus, there is no way he was able to do whatever he did to his arm on his own. He had help, and whoever it was is most likely still a threat. You are right. Sorry, Sensei. Still, at least for now, there's one less threat. True, but I think your little display may have earned you a few more. I am glad that guy is out of the picture now, because I sensed with more time he may have found a way to be a major threat to you and me. Naruto just nodded as made it to his apartment complex. He entered finding no lights. I guess this is a parting gift from that old fat retard who used to be my landlord. I guess I'll have to find the fuse box tomorrow and flip the switch. Naruto's eyes once again flared in orange color as he walked up the stair, avoiding a few traps, and made his way to his apartment. Naruto didn't even stop for a glass of water as he headed straight for his bedroom and flopped down fully clothed on his bed. Good night, Kane. Good night, Naruto. Sleep well, for tomorrow will most likely be another long day. Is there any other kind? Just then he remembered the Kage Bunshin he sent to practice the techniques from the scroll and dispelled them all, receiving their memories instantly, knocking him unconscious. Naruto woke up with an hour to spare before he needed to be at the academy to meet his new sensei, with a headache. Remind me never to dispel that many at once ever again, he thought. Taking a nice long relaxing shower with his lemon-scented body wash helped to clear his head. It isn't ramen, but it smells good enough. Then he ate a nice hot meal that had been prepared by a clone while he showered. He had missed having a nice meal where he could take his time and relax the most during his 5 years in the forest of death. He mostly ate meat that he hunted and cooked using a makeshift spit and a katan jutsu, while being on the lookout for animals attracted by smell. He mostly ate meat in the forest, with the only variety being the occasional bird or snake eggs he would stumble upon from time to time, and his weekly visit to Ichiraku's, in a henge, where he would gorge himself to help keep their business afloat. The Ichirakus had been like family to Naruto when he was younger, but since his 7th birthday he hadn't felt like that. He realized family was a precious thing, and despite how kind they had been to him, the Ichirakus weren't his family. He had stopped calling people Nei-san, and Ai-san, Aji-san, etc. for a simple smile in his direction, as was his old habit. Oh, how he was counting the days until he could leave Konoha behind as nothing but an extremely bad memory. Now wasn't the time to think about that, though. Cycling through his memories from yesterday, he remembered the scroll he had the clone make of techniques he could use from the Forbidden Scroll. Retrieving it from where the clone hid it between the mattress and spring box of his bed, he looked over it and found 2 more clone techniques. Placing the scroll back in its hiding place, he thought of what he wanted to do today. He knew the Sandaime wanted to see him after team assignments, but that wasn't in his plans. Naruto, having seen the battle, or at least the damage done by the battle between the Sandaime and that Danzo guy, made him want to get stronger even more. Training was going to be how he spent the day and most of the night, as he had a ways to go before he could use most of the techniques in the scroll. So after getting dressed and combing his hair, then having a clone wrap black cloth in a spiraling fashion so it was one long ponytail that reached the middle of his back, he hinged to the look people were comfortable with and set off to the Hokage Tower after grabbing his clone prepared lunch. Hokage Tower. 10 minutes later. Naruto had made it to the tower quickly using Sunshine and made it up to the Hokage's office without any problems. The floor his office was on was strangely empty, so he knocked on the door. He heard coming, so he opened one side of the double doors and walked in. As he walked in, he noticed the room was packed, and it was a struggle to make his way towards the Hokage, but he made it despite a few obstacles. Oh, Naruto-kun, I thought you were someone else. I'm sorry, but you can't be here right now, the Hokage said, while wondering where his former Anbu captain was. No problem, I just came to get the meeting over with now and to show you something, Naruto said. I wonder what it is he has to show me. Well, that lazy Kakashi team isn't here yet, so I do have a few minutes to kill most likely. I understand, but you need to understand that should you fail to be here by 4 p.m., I will add a little time to our contract, got it? Naruto glared at the threat the Hokage made, while some of the Jounin chuckled, hoping he was talking about jail time for his little stunt last night. He nodded though as the Hokage smiled triumphantly, ignoring the daggers Naruto was shooting at him. I am curious though about what it is you needed to show me. The old man began to sweat a bit as Naruto's glare turned to a smirk. Oh, I just wanted to show you what you asked me to show you 5 years ago. The Hokage racked his brain trying to decipher the annoying code the boy or perhaps young man gave him. What happened 5 years could it be? Is he finally going to show himself? Naruto's smirk only grew as he saw the light in the old man's eyes as he figured it out. Before he could say anything though, Naruto cut him off. Yes, Hokage-san, I came here to show you how I've changed over the last 5 years so you know before I head to the academy. The old man didn't even answer, just gestured for Naruto to do it. Taking a second, Naruto closed his eyes and then released all 5 layers of the minor genjutsu. He opened his eyes to find the old man and several female jounin had fainted. Curious, Naruto thought as he noticed the female jounins were sporting a tiny bit of blood near their noses. It took a few minutes, but soon after everyone was back in their positions they were staring at the blonde, some unconsciously licking their lips. Naruto's time in the forest and his new diet plus a little help from a certain fox turned Naruto into a very desirable male. He now stood 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighed 145 pounds, his blonde hair now smooth and shining a bright gold as the ponytail stood out against the black cloth that was wrapped in. His still blue eyes were lighter and held a more icy appearance if he ever glared at you, and the muscles were noticeable even if most of his body was covered by his long-sleeved black t-shirt with a tiger on the back, black cargo-styled pants, and black civilian-style running shoes modified with a chakra-conducing metal plating in the bottom and tip. What they couldn't see were his 2 summon tattoos and the 10 different seals he had placed on his body to both help his training and make him seem like an ordinary, as much as possible, genin. Then there were the 2 storage seals where in one he kept his 2 special swords and in the other seal stuff he wanted kept on his person. He couldn't use the swords right now or any time soon, so in the meantime he had a standard zanbato strapped to his back that he would practice with to get used to the weight. After looking him over a few times the Hokage gained a shocked look and then went back over his face. What the hell happened to the whisker marks? The Hokage was the first to stop staring a few minutes later as he sat back further in his chair, took out his pipe and lit it as he smoked to calm his nerves before asking Naruto a question. Should I take this as the work of the beast? The room tensed up with this question except for Naruto, who just smiled and answered. Some of it, but most of it is due to the fact I finally gained a steady food source that was something other than ramen. The Hokage winced a little, but nodded and asked his next question. What happened to your whisker marks? Naruto laughed a bit before answering. Well, they kinda stood out and made me an easily recognizable target, so the fox changed them into a different form elsewhere on my body that I can't say right now. The Hokage merely nodded, agreeing now wasn't the time. Unfortunately, the several kunoichi who fainted took this as a secret mission to discover the blonde Jinchuriki's secret and see him naked. Okay Naruto, I'll see you later, the Hokage said, and Naruto nodded as he headed for the door, but this time with fewer obstacles, though a few morons still decided to stick their legs out childishly as he tried to pass them. Naruto just smiled and gave each a swift kick, ignoring their shouts of pain and anger as he walked out the door and headed for the academy. The Hokage just glared at the 2 men, making a mental note to have them sent to Anko, who had become even more vicious when anyone who harmed the formerly tiny blonde was unfortunate enough to be sent her way over the last 5 years. It became such an issue that she was banned from interrogation for a year, sent on dangerous mission after extremely dangerous mission by the council. She survived much to their disappointment, but they kept a closer eye on her actions. They had sorely crossed her limits when they bribed her with a promotion if she would befriend Naruto, and then betray him by leaving him to the mobs on his 7th birthday. They didn't even do as they promised, only promoting her to Tokubetsu Jounin, and not make her a full Jounin like they said they would. The council and many of its members had made a lifelong enemy of her, as she vowed to make them pay. Sarutobi had to chuckle a little as he thought of what her reaction might be when she finds out what happened last night, and who was responsible. I only hope Naruto can learn to forgive her along with the rest of us. He sighed and then got back to business, seeing Kakashi was finally present. He turned slightly to glare at Kakashi, whose face was firmly planted in his favorite little orange book. So good of you to join us, Kakashi. Now do us a favor and put away the porn. The last part was said with a large dose of ki directed towards the Jounin elite and former Umbu captain as Kakashi shakily secured the book in a pocket of his vest. Sarutobi smiled and continued. As I am sure most of you are aware, you are here to view the genin that will make up the squad you will take ownership of later today. Everyone except Naruto will be placed on a team today. Before anyone could even think on what that meant, Kakashi rushed up to the old man and slammed his hands on the desk. What do you mean, Hokage-sama? I asked for and I thought was granted permission to train Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. He said, hoping his plans to train Sasuke while keeping the fox as weak as possible without hindering Sasuke's training was not in jeopardy. The Hokage looked at Kakashi impassively as he knew the real reason he wanted Naruto. You are a real idiot, Hatake team. How you continue to disgrace your late sensei and his dying wish is disgusting. That was the plan, Jounin, until Naruto surprised me yesterday. Sarutobi was interrupted by another late entry he recognized. What did the little gaki do now, Hokage-sama? Anko asked from the back of the room. Actually, he helped this village tremendously yesterday. First, he informed me of Mizuki's intentions. Then he informed me of a meeting he had recently with the daimyo. Which is why no one in this room will be his team's Jounin-sensei. The daimyo has seen to it that Naruto will team up with a couple of his guardian sons, because of how he has been treated up till now. That left me to find someone else to be the sensei for team number 11, and I think she will do a great job. Kakashi could do nothing but drop his head as his plan went up with a puff of smoke. So then who will be the third member of my team, Hokage-sama? Kakashi asked dejectedly. I decided to move a kunoichi who happens to be an orphan with good potential in ninjutsu onto your squad. Her name is Ami, but she will also receive training from Jounin Mitarashi Enko, who will join your squad on missions out of the village." Kakashi nodded, not really caring since his brilliant plans were ruined now. The Hokage stood up and motioned Enko forward as he handed her a Jounin vest. Enko was on the verge of crying, but held it in to ask a question. How Hokage-sama? Those Ikes and Tems on the council would never allow this. No need to worry about them for now, Enko-chan. Naruto's visit to the daimyo caused him to pass a few decrees that I agreed to. One of them being the disbanding of the council and execution of Shimura Danzo. All the shinobi except Enko, and the Hokage visibly paled, wondering if they were next. Enko, however, jumped over the desk, unintentionally flashing the old man, and few shinobi then hugged him, breaking the mood. Thank you, Hokage-sama. You won't regret this," she said as she released the man. The Hokage, leaking a little blood and with a slight blush on his face, merely waved her off. "It isn't me you should thank, but Naruto-kun. His visit set the daimyo into action, and you deserved that promotion a long time ago." Enko nodded and held her vest out in front of her. "I really should find a way to thank the little Gaki." However, her smile slipped as she remembered he wanted nothing to do with her, but regained it quickly as she slid on the vest under her jacket. "I'll find a way to make you forgive me, Gaki, and then I'll really make it up to you," she thought. The Hokage looked at the clock on his desk and noticed it was almost time for the roll to be called at the academy. "Okay, I called you all here so that you could view your soon-to-be students and get a good gauge on them before your meetings this afternoon." The Hokage secretly activated a few crystal balls so that everyone could gather around and watch. All except for Kakashi did so. "Maybe I can still make my plans come true. I'll just request joint training sessions and missions. Surely whoever they get to be his sensei won't mind if I take the boy off her hands so that Sasuke becomes stronger," thought Kakashi, missing the dirty looks from Sarutobi. "I'll make sure he never gets a chance to harm you or mess with your training, Naruto-kun." Breaking from his thoughts, the Hokage turned to his crystal ball, catching the Banshee twins entering the classroom. Class 401, Team Assignment Day. Naruto made it to the classroom without any problems and less glaring than usual. Of course, he didn't know that the Hokage had let a few, let's say, talkative people know about what went on in the council room. His heritage was still an unconfirmed mystery to most, but hearing that something had finally been done about the council put a smile on everyone's faces. It did trouble Naruto when he recalled a few looks and winks thrown his way by a few women 2 or 3 times his age. Then he recognized one of them from his darker days, but chalked up the attention to the fact they didn't recognize him without the henge of his younger self up or his trademark whiskers. Taking his normal seat, Naruto realized the graduating class had yet to show up aside from himself and the Aburame clan heir who always quietly sat in front of him. It seems everyone was taking it easy today, not that he blamed them. Quickly activating his eyes with an orange flash, he constructed a genjutsu around him, and the row he was sitting in that made it look like a pile of junk was in all 3 seats. Deactivating his eyes, he laid his head down on the desktop and closed his eyes, listening as the graduates started to trickle in. There was a few minutes left, and most of the group was seated and chatting with their friends. Iruka had come in and was seated at his desk staring at the area Naruto was sitting. Does he suspect something? Naruto wondered as the man kept staring in his direction. When I find the person who left all that junk there, I'll kill them. Now I have to spend the rest of the day cleaning again. Iruka sighed as looked towards the clock. Iruka got up and was about to close the door, but just then 2 girls ran in side by side, pushing and shoving each other, arguing as usual. Iruka had enough of this over the past 3 years and would be damned if this is how he spent the last day, so with a quick big head jutsu and threat, the Banshee twins sat on either side of Sasuke, who cursed the fact his shield wasn't here to keep them at bay. I guess even the dobe had his uses, Sasuke thought before quickly dismissing it. Everyone was seated as Iruka looked at the clock and then the class and then the door. Naruto, where are you? Sighing, he started with a speech, hoping he would show up soon. Okay everyone, since this will be the last I see most of you, I just want to address you with a short speech. Looking around, Iruka could see the excitement in the many smiling faces he saw. How I wish they could be like this forever. Breaking from his thoughts, he continued with his farewell welcome to the biz speech like he got when he graduated. You should all be very proud of yourself and know that you each have the ability to become great ninja. I can tell you will bring great pride and honor to your village and family. Because the moment you accepted your Hitaichi, you pledged not only your loyalty, but your life to protect every citizen of this village, civilian and shinobi alike. Train with that thought in mind. Grow strong so you can protect those you love from all enemies and evil. Life isn't easy for us ninja. We move in the darkness that surrounds us and see many evils. We put ourselves in danger so that others will not have to. So that those we care for and protect can sleep safely and never have to see the things we do. Cherish the friends and family you have and remember to keep in touch and renew the bonds you made as often as possible. And don't forget your old teacher Iruka, okay? He finished with a smile as he got applause for his speech. After looking over his desk, he picked up a scroll and turned to face everyone again. Now I'll call out your team assignments. Please stay quiet so everyone can hear their name. Okay, Team 1 is Irika said. Naruto tuned this part out as he felt like someone was watching him. As he looked around the room, he caught the eyes of Hyuga Hinata as she continued to stare in his general direction. Can she see me? Kane told me if I used my eyes even the Byakugan would be fooled by my genjutsu? Oh well, I'll wait and see what she does. Naruto was saved as her name was called and Kiba bounded down to her and distracting her with his excitement of being on the same team though she seemed to be ignoring him. Naruto was about to fall asleep when a piercing shriek tore through the classroom. Looking at the source, he saw Ino with her head down in defeat and Sakura plastering herself all over, a very disgusted looking. A second shriek was let out as it seemed the Hokage replaced him with another fangirl of the teams. Couldn't have happened to a better guy, Naruto thought as he watched Sasuke struggle to get out of Sakura's grasp. Then came an anguished cry from Ino that Naruto could only shake his head at. I bet they wish they could break the tradition their families have and team up with anyone else, Naruto thought. He turned his attention to Irika once he heard Team 11 as he knew that was his team's call number. Team 11 will be Uzumaki Naruto, and his Genin sensei will be Yugao Yuzuki, Irika says, but is interrupted before he could call out the remaining teams. It's just Naruto now, Irika-san, Naruto called out as he dropped the genjutsu. Irika and everyone else looked up to where the voice came from and were surprised that instead of Junk now sat a tall blonde kid with blue eyes in a clean row. And then Naruto? Irika asked shakily. Hi Irika-san, came Naruto's response that was loud enough to hear, but not too loud. This got different responses, the most vocal of which came from Kiba and the Pink Wonder. What's that loser doing here? They both stood and shouted. Naruto, who had put in his earplugs for insurance, just sat back like he heard nothing. The rest of the class wasn't so lucky. Irika had recovered from the shock and saw Kiba stalking towards Naruto. Irika sighed as he really hated to do this again, but it seemed he had no choice, so doing his big head jutsu he shouted. Kiba, Sakura, sit down and shut up. Once again the class was wincing and cursing the two loudmouths. Sakura immediately went to sit down, but forgot she was turned around facing Naruto, and in her panic she fell to the floor, hitting the back of her head against the desk and then her jaw as her head rocked forward, hitting the chair. The entire class, including Sasuke, Shino, Hinata, Naruto, and Irika, burst out laughing as she pitifully laid on the floor too embarrassed to raise her head. It's that demon's fault. My mom was right about him. I'll get my revenge, Sakura thought. Kiba, after rolling around the floor laughing, forgot what he was doing and returned to his original seat. Thank Kami he's gone. Does he even know what a bath is? Hinata thought. Irika was finally able to finish up announcing the teams. Okay, everyone, be back here in an hour to meet your senseis. Until then you are dismissed. Irika was about to leave since he no longer had a mess to deal with in the back row, but then decided against it and headed up to talk to Naruto. Most of the class had left except for Sasuke, Ino, Sakura, Kiba, Choji, Shikamaru, Shino, Ami, and Hinata. They stayed for different reasons. Ami, Ino, and Sakura stayed because Sasuke did. Sasuke stayed because he wanted answers from the blonde about what went on yesterday. Shino, surprisingly, also had something he wanted to ask of the blonde. Hinata was confused about something and had a few questions. Kiba stayed because Hinata did and he wanted to fight Naruto. Shikamaru was also interested as he noticed the genjutsu, but feigned sleeping, and Choji stayed because Shikamaru did. Naruto sensed the eyes on him as well as Irika coming towards him. What can I do for you, Irika-san? Naruto said as he sat back in his chair. First, I'd like to apologize again for how I behaved towards you in the past, Irika says humbly. My response is the same as last night, Yumino-san, forget about it. I have. Naruto replies. Irika nodded and went to what he wanted to know. Why have you dropped your last name? Naruto thought for a moment before answering. I have recently found out who my parents were. That got looks of surprise and intrigue out of everyone. Let's just say I wasn't happy with what I found out, so I refused to use that name. I know of other orphans that use only their first name, so I chose to do the same, Naruto says. Irika could only nod. The answer got 4 different reactions. He must really hate his family for some reason, thought the 3 fangirls. How can he dishonor his ancestors like that? Came from Kiba and Sasuke. Interesting, thought Shikamaru and Shino. Poor Naruto-kun, I wonder what he found out, thought Hinata. Okay, what's with the new look? Irika asked, looking the black-clad teen over. It's new to you, because I've kept myself and my clones henge to look the way the villagers are comfortable with. As you can see, though, I am taller and prefer to wear darker clothes, while I do enjoy a little orange here and there, Naruto said as he stood up and showed he was in fact only an inch or 2 shorter than Irika was. Wow, I guess you hit a major growth spurt or something, Irika said. Naruto just shrugged, while the 4 girls had one thought hot. Okay, one more and then I'm going to go eat somewhere. Naruto said as a black cloth-covered box suddenly appeared on the desk in front of him. Okay, how did you manage to become so strong despite no one teaching you anything? Iruka asked. Simple. I found someone willing to train me and show me what I needed when no one else would. Naruto replied. I'd hate to think what my life would be like if you never agreed to teach me, sensei. Naruto thought to Kane. I know, boy, now leave these fools before they try to get you to reveal more. Kane replied. Grabbing his lunch, Naruto stood up and made his way out of his row and down the aisles. But just as he reached halfway down, a hand grabbed his left shoulder. Not even turning to look, Naruto says. I am asking nicely, Uchiha-san. Please remove your hand so I can leave and enjoy my lunch. Sasuke just ignores him and says. Tell me how to do that jutsu you used last night against that man with all the Sharingans and bandages on him. I also want to know what you know about that man. Naruto just looked at the offending hand. That's what he did before my hand was set on fire. Kiba thought as he had flashbacks to what happened over 4 years ago. This time though, Naruto just jerked his shoulder forward out of Sasuke's grasp and continued to walk down the aisles. Hey, come back here and tell Sasuke-kun what he wants to know, loser! Shouted his 3 fangirls in surprising and defeating unity. He didn't even act like he heard them, mostly because he had quickly put the plugs in his ear and kept walking. Sasuke wasn't used to not getting his way. Since most of his clan had been wiped out, leaving him as the only known possible holder of the Sharingan in the village, everyone, including the few remaining Uchiha, had catered to his every whim. Who is that dope to deny me? Was his only thought as he followed the blonde and in turn was followed by his fan club. Everyone else soon left to go do their own thing except for Kiba, who turned to ask Hinata out only find she was gone. Outside the academy, Naruto had found a nice spot away from most of his class under a tree. Looking at his bento, he uncovered it and lifted the top, finding some of his favorites. There was some deer meat, chicken fried rice, shrimp ramen with a few shrimp, and taiyaki. He tapped on the side of the box where a seal was and instantly a cup of green tea was in his hand. Naruto took a sip of the tea and then resealed it and placed the top back on, covering the bento up again. What can I do for all of you? He called out to the group watching him from their hiding places. Slowly Sasuke, Sakura, Ino, Ami, and a bit further away from them Hinata came into the clearing and made their way to stand in front of Naruto. Sasuke was doing his best to stare a hole through Naruto's head, but he got nothing in return, so in frustration he tries to hit Naruto. Naruto just slides his torso slightly to the right and pulls his leg up as Sasuke off balance trips over it and falls to the ground. Before he could even hit the ground though, Naruto was up off the ground and stepping on the back of his head, driving him even further into the ground. Leave Sasuke-kun alone! His 3 cheerleaders called out as he kept pressing his foot on a flailing Sasuke's head. Only the pink one went to charge him, and without moving Naruto landed a solid punch to her stomach as she bent over and dropped to her knees, throwing up whatever small meal she had for breakfast. Still stepping on Sasuke's head, he addressed her as he looked down on the flailing preteen. You are unfortunately now a kunoichi and a poor excuse for one. If you go to attack, you will not be treated like a girl anymore, but a ninja who is trained to kill, or worse, they do treat you like a girl and rape you. The life of being a shinobi is not a game, Sakura, and if you continue to act like it is, you will meet a grim fate. I suggest you all stop your ridiculous dieting and train more than you shop, because an IWA nin wouldn't stop at one punch, they'd kill you or worse. Naruto said as he lifted his eyes to stare at the 3 girls. Of course this only had an effect on 2 girls. He's right, I've heard my father talk about how they used to torture kunoichis during the war. We don't do that now, but moms had to counsel kunoichi who have been through that recently at the hands of other villages who do. Ino thought. Sakura's weak, but I'm not much better and I never want to look like she looks now. Thought Ami. Both girls thought to take his advice and ask their mom or more experienced kunoichi for advice. Sakura had passed out from the pain shortly after the speech started, so she hadn't heard a word. Receiving a nod from 2 of the worst fangirls, Naruto noticed the worst had passed out, so not caring what happened to her, merely focused on who had taken to clawing at the ground and his pants-covered leg to get out from under him. What I said to the girls goes double for you, Uchiha. Your mere name may wet the panties of that corrupt council and all your little fans, but all it will do in the real world is make people want to kill you or steal your eyes before killing you. You don't run up demanding things of anyone when you haven't done shit to deserve it. This is your first warning, Uchiha. I will never train you or give you anything. So the next time you see me, either keep walking or exchange some meaningless pleasantries. If we happen to get stuck on a mission together, we will complete the mission to the best of our abilities, and then go our separate ways. Is that clear? Naruto said as he pressed down harder on the squirming boy. Hi, said Sasuke weakly. Naruto took his foot off his head slowly and then stood aside as Sasuke stood up and walked off as the 2 awake fangirls did the same, only Ino stopped to pick up Sakura and drag her back into the school to receive some help. Once again Naruto found himself alone. Well, not quite. So are you going to stand there and stare at me for the next 30 minutes, or are you going to say what you want to say? Naruto says as he turns to face the blue-haired girl who slowly walks up to him until she's face to face with him. I want to know how you fooled my Byakugan with those clones? Hinata asks. I guess I can answer that. The answer is in the clone technique I used, Hyuga-san. It's a solid clone that contains half of my chakra. To you or any Hyuga who has never seen my full capacity, you would assume the clone was me, as the only way to tell it's a clone is when you kill it, and it puffs into smoke. Naruto replies and receives a nod from Hinata. Settling back down against the tree, the bento reappears on his lap as he uncovers it, but notices he is still not alone. Looking up at her, he asks, Anything else I can help you with, Hyuga-san? Shaking her head, she goes around and sits on the opposite side of the tree he is and pulls out her bento as she begins to eat. Shrugging, he also digs in, finishing just before the hour is up, and makes his way back to the classroom with Hinata following close behind. Weird girl, Naruto thinks as they head inside. Academy Room 401, after lunch. Naruto returned to his normal seat, but instead of joining her two teammates, Hinata sat beside him, earning a few dirty and confused looks. Naruto wasn't sitting long though, as a few minutes later in walked the senseis for Team 11, Team 10, Team 8, and surprisingly both Team 7 senseis were there. Of course, Kakashi was only on time, because he wanted to set something up with whoever was Naruto's sensei. Yuga went first. I'm Mizuki Yugao here for Naruto, she says as he gets up and walks towards her. I'm Sarutobi Asuma here for Team 10. He states as Ino, Choji, and a reluctant Shikamaru stand up and walk towards him. I'm Yuhi Kurenai here for Team 8. Kurenai states as Hinata, Shino, and Kiba stand up and walk towards her. I'm Mitarashi Enko, and that's Hataki. Kakashi, Enko says, pointing at the silver-haired mask-wearing scarecrow as Sasuke, Ami, and Sakura stand up and walk towards her. When they all reached their senseis, each gave orders. Naruto, follow me, Yugao says as she walks out of the room, and he follows. Team 10, follow me outside. Asuma says as he walks out the classroom towards the back of the academy, followed by his team. Team 8, follow me. Kurenai says as she leads her team towards the front of the academy. Team 7, meet me on the roof. Kakashi says as he shines to where Yugao and Naruto are. Enko meanwhile goes up to the roof with their genin. With Naruto and Yugao. Naruto and Yugao had made it to the side of the academy, and were sitting under two trees that faced each other, and were fairly close together. They had barely gotten situated when Kakashi intruded. Yugao, sorry for interrupting, but could I speak to you for a moment? Kakashi asked. She looked over at Naruto, who shrugged and stood back up, walking a few feet away. What can I help you with, senpai? She asked. I would like to request joint training session, between your team and mine. You see, with Naruto now a part of Team 11 and the Hokage adding another fangirl type on my team, I'm afraid Sasuke won't be able to get enough from the training I want to put him through. He replies. So what are you suggesting, Hataki-senpai? She asks. I'm suggesting that you focus on training the other two while I take Naruto off your hands, and he helps me make Sasuke stronger. Plus, if he gets out of control, I can better handle him than you. Kakashi says sure she would agree. That's a generous offer, senpai, but I think we'll be fine. She says in soft yet dangerous tone before continuing in a normal tone. Naruto requested a kenjutsu teacher, and aside from Haikuen, I'm the best there is. Plus, I don't think Naruto likes Sasuke very much. When I got here I saw him attack Naruto, and Naruto pretty much stepped on him like an ant. Maybe down the road we'll get a mission together, and we can see about it then. Yugao walks back to where her student is done with the conversation. Damn him, I can't believe he thought I'd go for that bullshit. I was one of Naruto's original guardians and can tell he has nothing but bad intentions for Naruto. She thought. Damn her, how dare she not help me make Sasuke stronger and help that demon. However, maybe I went about this the wrong way and I should go straight to the demon himself instead of his trainer. Shining away, he went to meet his team. Sitting down and forgetting about Kakashi's ambitions for now, Yugao looked her soon-to-be student over and began their introductions. Hello, Naruto-kun. My name is Yuzuki Yugao. My specialty is kenjutsu, although I can help you in any area you may need help in except for fuinjutsu. Okay, now if you could tell me a little about yourself? She finishes and motions for him to start. Okay, as I guess you know, my name is no longer Uzumaki Naruto, it's just Naruto due to certain things I've found out recently. I have no real specialty, but due to my chakra capacity I guess most people would say I specialize in ninjutsu. I have learned over 20, and have learned how to use more than 2 different elements. I have intermediary ceiling knowledge, can perform low-level genjutsu without my dojutsu, and high-level ones with Naruto was cut off before he could finish. You have a dojutsu? Yugao asked. Yes, it has abilities of both the Byakugan and Sharingan is all I can tell you. Naruto replies. Does it have a name? She asks. Not yet. I really haven't thought about it. Naruto answers honestly. Okay. Well, the Hokage informed me your teammates will be arriving sometime this week, so until then you and I will work on your taijutsu and kenjutsu. Although from what I saw of how you handled the Uchiha your physical abilities are pretty good for your age. Naruto blushed a little at the praise, but then composed himself. Yuzuki-sensei, I think before we go any further you need to know something. Naruto says, gaining her attention. I do not care about advancing in the ranks much. My goal is to be able to defend myself, and from what I've been told my future enemies are some of the strongest shinobi in the ninja world. I only know for sure of one person, because they told me themselves. Uchiha Itachi told me one night that sometime in the future after I graduate, I don't know when, he and I will fight. He also warned me of a group of nin as strong and in some cases stronger than him. That's after my constant companion. Naruto says as he points to his belly, gaining a gasp from Yugao. So you see, I need intense training. I've managed to get myself to Jounin level in ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, chakra control, and I've been told my chakra is at level 4.25 and growing. However, I know it's not good enough to face that type of enemy Itachi-sen was talking about. I just want to focus on kenjutsu right now and improve everything else along the way while gaining some experience. Naruto says. Thank you for trusting me, Naruto-kun, with that information. I promise to help you in any way possible. Yugao says with a smile. It was some time ago, but I still remember how you used to help and protect me. I am really glad the Hokage saw fit to allow me to be your Ashiego. Naruto replies also with a smile. I was just doing my job. Yugao says with a slight blush. Well, to someone like me where most people take pleasure in not doing their job, that meant a lot. Naruto says as Yugao nods. Normally this is where we'd part ways after I tried to psyche you out and tell you where to meet me tomorrow with your team for the real test. But your team and the Uchihas are being pushed through. Yugao says. Even with the council out of commission? Naruto asks. Even without them, the public is still in love with the Uchiha name, and the Hokage made it clear your team would be genins and take missions as soon as possible. So instead of giving you the standard genin cell test, I will be sparring against each of you individually to see where you need help and gauge your abilities. If you want, we can do yours now. She replies. I would rather my teammates see what I can do so we can get to know each other better. I would like to spar a little with you though before I go see the Hokage. Naruto says. Yugao agrees and gets into a stance while Naruto deactivates all of his restrictive seals and grabs the Zanbato on his back and positions it in front of him, holding it with his right hand. Before they could start though, Yugao stopped and walked towards Naruto. First lesson, Naruto-kun. Your stance is too flat-footed. You need to find a stance that you are comfortable with and can move smoothly in, that has your push-off foot in front so you can move quicker to your attack or defense position. Yugao shows him what she means by getting him to try to move with his lead foot in the back, then parallel, and finally in front of the other foot. Seeing she was right and the instant improvement, he smiled. Thanks, sensei. Yugao nodded and then got back in position. She noticed Naruto now put his right foot slightly out in front with the heel slightly elevated. He held his blade forward and waited as she took out what looked to be a wooden sword and then nodded at him. Naruto gave Yugao a small smile and then charged, reaching her within seconds as he slashed at her with his sword. His speed is easily Jounin level, but it's clear that while he has some experience with the sword, he needs a lot of guidance. Yugao thought. Tapping the side of the large sword was enough to put Naruto off balance as she finished by hitting him in the stomach. Naruto bent over for a moment, but then stood back up to her shock. Sensei, do you have another one of those wooden swords for me? Naruto asks. Sure. I probably should have given this to you in the first place. Yugao says. She reaches into a pocket, fishing out a scroll, then unsealing another wooden sword and tossing it to Naruto. Placing the scroll back in the pocket, she asks. Ready? Naruto nods and they get back into their stances. This time Yugao attacks. She runs until she is a few feet in front of him and then vanishes in a burst of speed, suddenly appearing behind him. She turned her head to see Naruto on the ground again, coughing up a little blood with a broken sword in his right hand. She quickly ran to his side. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? She asks. Cough, I'll cough, be fine, Naruto manages to squeeze out. What cough was that, sensei? Naruto asks. That my Ashiego is the result of chakra flow, a kenjutsu technique that I will teach you. Yugao answers. Naruto slowly stands and bows to Yugao. I think that's enough for today, Naruto. Meet me tomorrow at Training Ground 27 at 8 a.m. and bring everything you think you might need for a 6-hour training session. If you're still standing, maybe we'll try to do a mission. Yugao says. Sensei, I've been training 10 hours a day for the last 3 years, so do your worst. Naruto replies with a smirk. Unfortunately, when he saw Yugao's reaction, he knew that was a mistake. I'm sure you'll enjoy every second, Naruto-kun. Yugao says with a grin on her face as she leaves. She shines away. Naruto shook his head and admittedly happy at how things went and walked towards the Hokage tower. Hokage's office 20 minutes later. Naruto knocked on the office door and heard the customary enter from inside the room. Entering and taking a seat in front of the old man, Naruto waited for him to start. Okay, Naruto, I'd like to know about those eyes of yours. Sarutobi started. I kind figured. It's a combination of the Byakugan and the Sharingan. It doesn't have the range the Byakugan does nor the copying ability of the Sharingan. Oh, and I can change the color when I want to, plus block the Sharingan's copying ability and cast genjutsu that can fool the Byakugan. Naruto says. That's an amazing dojutsu. Is it a bloodline ability? Hiruzen asked. It wasn't, but it will be whenever I have kids. Sarutobi nodded. You know, Naruto-kun, if you decide to stay and live in the village past the 3 years, you will have the ability to marry as many women as wish to marry you. The Hokage says. Tempting offer, but no. I wouldn't care if everyone got on their hands and knees and kissed my butt. In 2 years 355.5 days I will leave this place and never look back. Naruto says, earning a sigh from the old man. I really wish you would reconsider. I sent one of my best information people to find out about your mother and relay a message about what's happening. I'm sure now that Danzo is gone she'll be anxious to come back and meet her son. Sarutobi says. Not interested. I don't hate her, but she did what she did. There is no going back and nothing will keep me here. Naruto replies. Fine, that's all I wanted. The Fire Daimyo sent me a message and said that your 2 teammates would arrive within the next 3 days. The Hokage says, and Naruto nods, then gets up. Well, if that's all I have training to do. I do want to thank you, Thought, for setting me up with Yuzuki-senpai. I think we'll make a good team. Naruto says, then walks out the door, and shines to Area 44 hoping he can train in peace. I think it's time I read my father's letter. Naruto thought. Naruto had finally read the letter. He was a little disappointed by it. There were no "I made you a weapon to protect the village I loved more than you" type stuff or any groveling and begging forgiveness type stuff. All the letter contained was a simple "I had to do what had to be done, and I'm sorry." He did receive his 2 most powerful jutsus, but Naruto couldn't help but think there should have been so much more. Then again, I guess there was before my so-called Kasan, one, took it all and ran out of town. Naruto concluded. Letting go of the negative stuff surrounding his parentage, Naruto turned his attention to the gates as 2 boys about his height came through the north gate with a small army of men in fine robes carrying stuffed folders carefully as they headed towards the Hokage Tower. Deciding to stop them before they reached the old man, Naruto ran up and stood in front of the 2 boys. Hi, my name is Naruto. Are you the 2 the daimyos sent to become shinobi? Naruto asked, receiving a nod. Looking at the one on his left wore all black, while the one on the right wore a dark blue color and both had large scrolls strapped to their backs. The trio started walk towards the tower again as an awkward silence settled in. So what are your names? Naruto asked, breaking the silence. My name is Yasuoto Yudai, said the one in black, who was a few inches shorter than Naruto. He had light brown hair, dark almost black eyes, and a pale complexion. My name is Osegawa Katsu, said the one in blue, who was an inch taller than Yudai. He had black hair, hazel eyes, and was also pale complexion.